Chapter 515. In the afternoon, Tan Xiao, Hu Qingsong, as well as Yu Kai and Zhao Liang, who came back beaming with happiness, came to the classroom together. No one was absent or late since the afternoon was the foreign language class of their teacher in charge, Han Qinggu. Tap, tap. The sound of high-heeled shoes stepping on the floor came from the corridor. Han Qinggu, who was dressed in casual and fashionable clothes, came from the outside with a book in her arms. When her figure appeared in the eyes of the whole class, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. Great! Finally, no one is skipping class anymore. Han Qinggu put the book on the podium and slowly glanced at the class. Her eyes lingered on Tan Xiao for a second or two, before she spoke with satisfaction. However, as she spoke, the eyes of the whole class fell on Tan Xiao and a strange smile appeared on their faces. Tan Xiao sighed inwardly. He tried his best to force a smile and said, "Miss Han is really beautiful today. I didn't report in time this morning due to some special reasons. I hope you can forgive me. This kind of situation will never happen again." Heh! A smile outlined on the corner of Han Qingwu's mouth. She glanced at Tan Xiao and nodded. "It's a great thing to know one's mistake and correct it. I'm not a stingy person. You stay and clean the classroom after today's class is over, and I'll forget about you skipping class this morning." "All right." Tan Xiao agreed, but he secretly muttered inside. Only women and villains are hard to deal with. In this class, Han Qinggu was obviously in a good mood, and the reaction of the students was also very enthusiastic. As the class ended, Han Qinggu swept her eyes at Tan Xiao when she was tidying up her books, and turned to walk outside. Hu Qingsong, who was sitting next to Tan Xiao, elbowed Tan Xiao and said with a faint smile, "Big bro Tang, our teacher Han really takes care of you. If it were other students who skipped class without reason, they would definitely have their credits deducted. But she only punished you to clean the classroom to make up for your mistakes. It seems that she has really fallen in love with you and is afraid that you won't be able to get your graduation certificate." On the other side, Yu Kai blew the long hair on his forehead and also chuckled. That's right. I also think that Teacher Han has fallen in love with Tan Xiao. I say, Boss Tang, although you have a lot of women and some of them are a bit better than Class Monitor Han, our Class Monitor Han is still a great beauty. If you're a man, you might as well take her as well." Tan Xiao asked, "Are you two stud horses?" Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai looked at each other, and then raised their middle fingers at Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "I won't be staying in the dormitory tonight. There's dust on the bedding. I plan to take it to Blue Star Villa Complex to wash. I'll stay in the school dormitory starting tomorrow." With a thick face, Yu Kai said, "Big bro Tang, can we discuss something? How about giving me the key to your Blue Star Villa Complex? I'll take my girlfriend out when I have nothing to do in the future. I don't need to spend money to rent a hotel room." "Fuck off." Tan Xiao rolled his eyes at him and directly refused this unreasonable request. Yu Kai didn't get angry. He stroked his chin and pondered about how to arrange a one-night stand duel in Tan Xiao's villa. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Tan Xiao drove Yu Kai's BMW and returned to Blue Star Villa Complex with the bedding. After throwing the bedding into the washing machine in the laundry room, he asked the housekeeper Auntie Zhang to wash it for him, and then went to the study room on the second floor. After releasing the fierce beast from the array, Tan Xiao took out some meat from his interspatial ring and threw it to the beast. Then he turned around and walked to the desk. The National Day trip to the imperial capital was a fruitful harvest for him. But aside from the 9 Phoenix hairpin, the other 4 items seemed to have their own secrets. Moreover, he had yet to thoroughly study the secrets of these 4 items. Hence, he decided to study these 4 items when he had time in the future, hoping that they would be helpful to him. After having dinner, Tan Xiao took a book he borrowed from the school library and came to a chair outside the courtyard. Auntie Zhang served him some fragrant tea, and he read it while sipping the tea. However, not long after, he heard the sound of something smashing coming from the villa next door. "Auntie Zhang, is there someone living in the villa next door?" Tan Xiao turned around and looked at Zhang Xinlan, who was sweeping the garden. "I heard someone smashing things in the villa when I went out to buy groceries this morning." Zhang Xinlan nodded. Later, When I came back from buying groceries, I found a young man standing on the top of the villa, looking around. I heard the sound of something smashing several times today from the villa next door. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He stood up and put the book on the chair behind him, saying with a smile, "I'm going out, Auntie Zhang." Having said that, he walked out of the villa's courtyard and came to the villa number 11 next door. After looking at the closed door, he rang the doorbell. "Who are you?" As the iron gate was slowly opened, Yang Lu, who was crossing his arms and looking unhappy, looked at Tan Xiu and then raised his chin and asked. Tan Xiu pointed to the next door and said with a smile, "I'm the owner of Villa number 9, your neighbor." Yang Lu stared blankly for a moment and immediately asked, "Is there something you need?" "There's something I need," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Yang Lu was silent for a moment and then said, "Even if you're fine, I happen to have something to talk to you about. Come in." Tan Xiu stepped into the courtyard and looked at the broken bottles and cans in the courtyard. The smile on the corner of his mouth turned thicker. After following Yang Lu straight to the villa's hall, he found that this villa was not as luxurious as his own, but the interior decoration was also good. Furthermore, what surprised him was that the inside of the villa was very neat and clean despite the messy appearance of so many broken things outside. "What would you like to drink?" Yang Lu asked. "White wine. Beer? Foreign wine?" "I like drinking tea," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. "The better the tea, the happier I'll be." Yang Lu rolled his eyes and left. When he came back, he was holding a pot of tea and 2 empty cups. After putting them in front of Tan Xiu, he said, "Pour the tea yourself. By the way, what are you looking for me for?" Tan Xiu reached out to pour the tea and didn't answer Yang Li's question. Instead, he said with a smile, "Tell me, what's the matter you need me for?" "Humph, I didn't expect you to be such a difficult person to deal with." Yang Lu snorted and said, "Fine, if you don't want to say it, then I'll ask first. Since you live next door to me, you should know that there was a problem in my villa some time ago, right?" "There's a problem in your villa, so you should be looking for the property management. Why do you ask me?" Tan Xiu asked back. "If I'm looking for the property management, then I don't need to ask you," said Yang Lu. "Can you answer one more question for me?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. "Go ahead." Yang Lu spread out his hands. "What do you do?" Tan Xiu asked. In a flash, Yang Lu sat straight on the sofa. His body tensed up as his eyes stared at Tan Xiu. After half a minute of silence, he slowly said, "What do you want to say?" "It's nothing. Don't be nervous," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "I'm not a cop and I don't like to poke my nose into other people's business. Of course, if you're willing to treat me as a good person, I'll gladly accept it." "My things, are they with you?" asked Yang Lu. "Yes, they're with me." Tan Xiu nodded. Phew. Yang Lu was obviously relieved. He slowly took out a cigar box from his bosom and took out 2 cigars. After throwing one to Tan Xiu, he lit it and took a deep puff. Then he said with a smile, "Since they're with you, then I'm relieved. After some observation, I found that a lot of people came to my villa while I was away. Also, I lurked in the security's monitoring room and found some things from the surveillance video. But that's not important. What's important is my things." "You didn't see my figure in the video, did you?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. "You're indeed not among the people who came to my villa," said Yang Lu. "Say it. How can you give my things back to me?" "You haven't answered my question yet," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Yang Lu was silent for a while. Then he suddenly grinned, revealing his big white teeth as he said with a smile, "I'm a hero thief. Have you heard of the occult sect's thieves?" "You're also a member of the occult sect?" asked Tan Xiu with a strange expression. "You know the existence of the occult sect's people?" asked Yang Lu with a surprised expression. "Who exactly are you?" "I didn't know much about the occult sect's people before," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "But I went to the imperial capital yesterday and participated in the auction held by the Situ family. I just didn't expect that my neighbor turned out to be the occult sect's great thief." "You're a hero thief." A bit of dissatisfaction was revealed on Yang Li's face as he corrected Tan Xiu's words. Then he continued, "All right, I've told you everything. Give my things back to me. Those gold, silver, jewelry, cash, diamonds, and the like are all yours. I need my tools. Tanxiu got up and said with a smile. Since I know what I want to know, I won't take anything from you. Come with me to my place. I'll give your things back to you. But since we're neighbors, shouldn't we get along well? I don't want the things in my villa to suddenly disappear one day. That's not necessarily true, said Yang Lu with a ruminating expression. If you let me know that you're the kind of rich but heartless person who earns ill-gotten wealth, maybe your things will really disappear. I won't take advantage of others, nor will I take others' things, Tanxiu said with a smile. But if anyone dares to touch my things, I don't mind cutting off his hands and making him lose the ability to eat. Yang Lu squinted his eyes as he watched Tanxiu's back walking outside. Suddenly, his pace quickened as he used a peculiar footwork and lightning speed to strike Tanxiu's back. He was confident in his own skill. In his opinion, even though he only used 30 to 40% of his strength, he could still hit Tanxiu. Whoosh! A figure flashed as Tanxiu's figure appeared half a meter away out of thin air. What? Yang Li's complexion drastically changed. His eyesight and speed were several times better than an ordinary person. Yet he still only felt a blur in front of him as his fist struck empty air. Chapter 5:16. Yang Lu was a disciple of the occult sect, and was once a disciple of a martial arts grandmaster. Even if his current strength was still unable to surpass the master, it was still not a problem for him to beat up more than a dozen punks. However, when he launched a sneak attack on Tanxiu, he found that his strike was actually dodged by the other party. It was as if the other party had eyes behind his back. However, what shocked him the most was not this, but Tanxiu's speed. Even with his keen eyesight, he still only felt a blur in front of his eyes as his fist missed. Such a result made his heart tremble. You may know a man for a long time, but you don't know his heart. Tanxiu's footsteps moved and instantly appeared at Yang Li's side. His fingers pierced out and directly sealed several major acupoints on Yang Li's body. Then he took 2 steps back and stood at the side, shaking his head and sighing. Yang Lu wanted to continue attacking, but as a numb feeling emerged in his body, his eyes instantly widened, and a look of disbelief burst out from his eyes. He desperately exerted his strength, only to find that he had lost control of his body. No matter how much strength he exerted, he couldn't move even a little bit. How did you do it? Yang Li's voice was hurried and shrill, and even contained a strong sense of panic. It doesn't matter how I did it. What's important is that I was kind enough to help you put away those things to prevent them from being exposed. Yet you actually sneak attacked me, which really chilled me to the core. It's said that thieves also have their own way of doing things. Chivalrous thieves do exist, but you can't be called a chivalrous thief. I'm afraid you're just a petty thief with a little ability. A big hat was directly put on Yang Li's head. Although Tanxiu knew that Yang Lu was just testing him, he still said something to hit him. Upon hearing it, Yang Lu angrily shouted, "You're not allowed to insult me. I just wanted to measure your strength. Who would have thought that I would really sneak attack you? What's the use of sneak attacking you? That's why I just said that you may know a man for a long time, but you don't know his heart. Who knows what wishful thinking you have in your heart?" Tanxiu said indifferently, "There is a saying that you should have heard before. Seeing is believing. I saw you attack me with my own eyes. If I didn't know some martial arts, I'm afraid I would have been punched in the back by you." Yang Lu fell silent. He knew that no matter how he explained, Tanxiu wouldn't want to hear it. After all, he did launch a sneak attack just now to test whether Tanxiu knew Kung Fu or not, and whether he was a member of the Strange Doors. After a long while, "What do you want?" asked Yang Lu slowly. Tanxiu thought for a moment and said, "Apologize to me and compensate me." Yang Lu was taken aback and asked, "Apologizing is not a problem, but how are we going to compensate?" Tanxiu said, "Apologize first, and then I'll tell you." Yang Lu nodded and said, "Brother Tanxiu, I was wrong just now. I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me for my rudeness." Tanxiu nodded with satisfaction. He approached Yang Lu and unsealed his acupoints lightning fast. As he turned around and walked outside, he said indifferently, I'll return the tools in your box to you later. But the gold, silver, jewelry, cash, and diamonds inside will be my compensation. Fuck. Yang Lu, who had just regained his mobility, moved his hands and feet a few times. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, his body slightly stiffened. Looking at Tan Xiu's back as he walked outside, he cursed and then chased after him with a wry smile. At this moment, he wished he could slap his own big melon seeds. It was just a sneak attack that didn't even touch Tan Xiu's hair. Yet his wealth of hundreds of millions was lost just like that? Although he was not short of money and those things were just a small amount to him, he was still very depressed inside. After chasing him, he shouted, I say, Brother Tan Xiu, you're too black-hearted. I may be a chivalrous bandit, but you're a robber. Tan Xiu glanced at him and sneered. Those who attacked me before, except for one who was subdued by me, have all turned into corpses. Do you think you can still stand and talk to me if I didn't sense any malice from you? It's just a small amount of money, don't be so hesitant. Yang Lu gulped down his saliva. Although he didn't quite believe Tan Xiu's words, he knew that someone who could have such a terrifying skill was not a good person. Brother Tan Xiu, who exactly are you? I'm a student, answered Tan Xiu. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snappily said, If you're a student, then I'm a policeman. But you do seem to be quite young. That's right. When I saw you just now, I felt that you looked a bit familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen you. Tan Xiu ignored him and went straight back to his villa. He told Yang Lu to wait in the living room downstairs and went to the second floor alone. In the study room, he took out the black suitcase from his interspatial ring. After opening it, he put away the stacks of 100 yuan bills, gold, silver, and jewelry inside, as well as the diamonds. Then he closed the suitcase and carried it downstairs. Your stuff. Tan Xiu threw it to him. After accurately catching it, Yang Lu opened it and looked at it a few times. He then nodded and said, Anyway, thanks. I've returned it to you, so don't randomly smash things again, said Tan Xiu. Well, it's getting late, so I won't keep you any longer. Go back. Not only did Yang Lu not leave, but he also sat on the sofa in the living room. He put the suitcase aside and smilingly looked at Tan Xiu and said, Brother Tan Xiu, it's fate that we meet each other. How about having a drink? I also have something I want to ask you. Do you want to know how I made you unable to move? Asked Tan Xiu. Yeah, I'm really curious. Yang Lu nodded without hesitation. You have a very powerful skill, but you used a method that I didn't even notice. It made me lose control of my body. I'm really shocked and panic-stricken. Tan Xiu took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it up and took 2 puffs. Then he smilingly said, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, so I have a very clear understanding of the human body's structure. How many bones, muscles, meridians, and acupoints do you have in your body? I'm very clear about all of these, and I can easily find them. Since you're a member of the occult sect, you should know about the acupoint sealing method. Hiss. Yang Lu had already faintly guessed that Tan Xiu might have used the acupoint sealing method, yet he was still shocked by his words. Furthermore, the reason why he asked was that he knew that some people in the occult sect knew the acupoint sealing method, but the effect was definitely not that powerful. After a while, Yang Lu suppressed the shock inside. He rubbed his hands and let out a flattering smile as he said with a smile, Brother Tan Xiu, this brother has a presumptuous request, but I don't know if you can agree or not. I can't. Tan Xiu straightforwardly refused. Yang Li's expression turned sluggish as he forced a smile and said, You haven't heard what I have to say. What I mean is that I'll worship you as my master as long as you're willing to teach me the acupoint sealing technique. It doesn't matter if you don't want to accept me as your disciple. I'm willing to pay to learn it. I won't accept you as my disciple, there's no doubt about it, said Tan Xiu. I can pay to learn it, but I don't know how much money you can take out. Yang Lu stretched out a finger and said with all seriousness, 100 million. Tan Xiu pointed to the door and said, The door is over there. I won't send you off. With a strange expression, Yang Lu said, Brother Tan Xiu, you don't need to rip me off like this, do you? Even though I managed to steal all of my master's wealth before he passed away, 100 million should be quite a lot, right? You just robbed me of hundreds of millions of wealth. Tanxiu shrugged and chuckled. Since you already know that I can casually rob hundreds of millions of wealth, do you think I'll still care about the 100 million tuition fee? You must know that if you want to learn the acupoint sealing technique, you must practice a cultivation technique. I happen to know a cultivation technique that can be practiced. If you learn it, not only will you be able to seal acupoints, it will also make your strength soar. 100 million? What a joke. Cultivation technique? Yang Lu was startled and hurriedly asked, the cultivation technique you mentioned, is it the legendary internal energy cultivation technique? Tanxiu shook his head and then nodded, saying, it's a kind of internal energy cultivation technique, but it's more powerful than ordinary internal energy cultivation techniques. Yang Li's complexion changed. He stared at Tanxiu for half a minute and then solemnly said, 5 billion. This is all the wealth I can take out in a short time. Tanxiu got up and walked toward the stairs as he lightly said, no matter how much money you have, it doesn't mean anything to me. Don't bother me if you don't have 10 billion. You can go now. I don't want to say it for the third time. 10 billion. Yang Lu jumped up from the sofa with disbelief in his eyes. He had seen people who were greedy, but he had never seen such a ruthless person. Although he just said that his wealth was only 5 billion was a lie, he absolutely didn't have a wealth of more than 10 billion. Even the total wealth he had was less than 1/3 of 10 billion. Is this forcing me to do more good deeds and share the burden of those who have obtained ill-gotten wealth? Yang Lu thought indignantly. However, he knew himself very well. If one day he could really get 10 billion, would he still use such a huge amount of wealth to learn acupoint sealing art from Tanxiu? With such a sum of money, he would directly wash his hands of the world and enjoy a good life later. Tanxiu returned to the second floor and looked at Yang Lu, who had just left the house. A smile outlined on the corner of his mouth. He felt that Yang Lu was a very interesting young man. He knew the sect master of the thief sect when he was in the immortal world, and if the sect master of the thief sect hadn't offended a formidable enemy and been pursued to death when he'd just reached the perfected golden immortal realm, he would probably have become a supreme exalt in the immortal world in the future. If he can really get 10 billion, it means that he does have some ability. It's not impossible to accept him as a disciple at that time. Tanxiu thought silently with a smile. Chapter 517. The moonlight was like water, and a cool breeze blew in through the screen window, bringing a refreshing feeling to the room. The light in the study was slightly lit. Tanxiu sat on the sofa, quietly looking at the 3 items on the tea table in front of him. The Qin Emperor's imperial jade seal, the ancient bronze lamp, and the guanyin vase. Among the 5 treasures he obtained in the capital, the 9 phoenix hairpin was the one he was most familiar with, so he didn't need to study it at all. The golden dragon head, in his opinion, was ordinary and not worth studying, but the 3 items in front of him made him look forward to it. I can't use the power of luck in the Qin Emperor's imperial jade seal for the time being. With my current level of cultivation, even if I touch it with my divine sense, it will bring me a lot of mental damage, not to mention trying to use my astral power. If I really use it, I'm afraid that the astral power in my body will be disturbed, and I might even be possessed by the devil. I won't study it for the time being. The Buddhist relics in the ancient bronze lamp won't be of much help to me for the time being. But since this bronze lamp is a pseudo-fairy artifact, it's a good treasure for me now. Tanxiu pondered for a moment, then took out a lighter and lit the lamp. Immediately, a peculiar fragrance wafted out. This fragrance was intoxicating, and an indescribable feeling welled up in one's heart. Tanxiu's spiritual power was extremely strong. Through his keen perception, he was acutely aware that the spiritual energy in the surroundings was gradually surging towards the room. At the same time, there was a special energy that appeared in the surroundings. After the energy entered Tanxiu's body, Tanxiu felt a cool feeling, which was very comfortable, and his cultivation speed increased a lot. Focus, calm down. These 2 words just came to Tanxiu's mind. Suddenly his expression changed, and he was a little shocked, because he also noticed that his thinking was particularly clear. Many things that confused him before emerged in his mind, and he could clearly sort out these thoughts, which made him burst out with all kinds of understanding and enlightenment. Buddhism pays attention to enlightenment. The most magical effect of the ancient bronze lamp is to improve people's understanding. Tan Xiu's eyes bloomed with extraordinary splendor, and he immediately picked up the last item, the guanine vase. Staring at the golden liquid inside, he instantly released his divine sense. Unfortunately, to his helplessness, no matter how he observed, he could not figure out what the spherical golden liquid inside was. My cultivation is too low. I can't refine it. Tan Xiu finally put away the guanine vase with a helpless expression. He sat cross-legged in the study and began to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, a night had passed. Although Tan Xiu's cultivation hadn't made much progress, his whole body felt refreshed and full of energy as the ancient bronze lamp burned. After extinguishing the ancient bronze lamp, he washed up and changed into a set of clean clothes. After eating breakfast at home, he rushed to school. Because he had become a celebrity now, he still disguised himself, such as big sunglasses and a peaked cap. If one did not recognize his appearance, they would think that he was just an ordinary young student. Last night, he thought about his life with Han Qinggu and finally decided to compromise for the time being. Because Han Qinggu was not Xue Qingcheng. Even if she was the reincarnation of Xue Qingcheng, before Han Qinggu's memory was restored, Han Qinggu was just another person. Moreover, if he couldn't avoid it, he could only face it. Since he had to get along with her for 4 years in college, he would face it as a normal student and teacher. Although he couldn't achieve mutual respect and love, at least it was necessary to strive to get along harmoniously through college life. Sure enough, after Tan Xiu came to school, his attitude towards Han Qinggu had changed, which made Han Qinggu very satisfied. Although she proposed to have dinner with Tan Xiu, but Tan Xiu found an excuse to refuse, the two still got along well. Days passed by. Because there was no special reason, Tan Xiu's life was very relaxed. Every day, apart from going to class, going to the library to read books, going to the cafeteria to eat, most of the time he stayed on campus. Gradually, many people forgot Tan Xiu's star identity. New topics and new events attracted the attention of others. At the end of the month, as usual, Tan Xiu left the teaching building with Hu Qingsong, Yu Kai, and the others after class and rushed to the cafeteria nearest to the teaching building. Brothers, we don't have classes in the afternoon. What are you going to do? Yu Kai asked while playing with the key of his BMW after giving the book to Xue Chao. Xue Chao said, I'm going to work. Boring. Yu Kai rolled his eyes and looked at Hu Qingsong asking, What about you? Hu Qingsong said, I'm also going to go out to find a job and feel the taste of a part-time job. Yu Kai said with a strange expression, I say, old Hu, you have nothing better to do. You don't need to go out to be abused, do you? We usually have to attend classes, and you can't go out at all. How much money can you make if you take advantage of your break time to work? Also, it's very difficult to find a good job nowadays even for formal university graduates. You're just a student. Are you going to hand out leaflets to others? I don't expect to find a good job, nor do I expect to have a high income, said Hu Qingsong. I just want to go out to see the various kinds of life and experience the feeling of making money. To tell you the truth, I've never relied on my own ability to earn a penny since I was a child. Yu Kai was stunned and fell into silence for a while. He then turned to look at Tan Xiu and asked, Big Bro Tang, you're not going to the library again, are you? Tan Xiu nodded and said, You guessed it right. I'm going to the library to read books. Recently, I've been unable to find the case data on some knowledge related to economics, so I'm going to look through it again and look for it carefully. Yu Kai shook his head and looked at Hu Qingsong saying, Old Hu, since you want to go out and experience life, I'm also bored and idle, so I'll risk my life to accompany you. Let's go together. By the way, have you thought about what kind of job you're going to find? I've thought about it. There are 2 in total. The first one is to be a salesman and run business, and the second one is to be a courier. I'm looking for a courier job with a relatively relaxed schedule, said Hu Qingsong. Yu Kai stared blankly for a moment before he patted his forehead and said, I just remembered that I'm going to talk about life and ideals with a cute girl this afternoon, so I won't be accompanying you. Anyways, you guys go to the cafeteria for lunch. I'm going to find my cute girl." After saying that, this guy directly ran away. Tan Xiu's eyes retracted from Yukai's back as he looked at Hu Qingsong and smilingly said, "The two jobs you've chosen are really good. Regardless of what kind of position you're in, you can exercise yourself. Work hard and strive to understand the hardships of life as soon as possible." Hu Qingsong grinned and said, "Don't worry. I'm not going out to play." Shortly after, the three of them had lunch together. Hu Qingsong and Xue Chao then left, whereas Tan Xiu went back to his dormitory and took the books he borrowed 2 days ago. Then he went to the campus library alone. Just as he entered the library's entrance, Tang Xiu's brows wrinkled again. It was because he had seen it a few times. A lot of male students were gathered in the reading area on the first floor, and their eyes were constantly glancing at several female students in the corner. "It's Mu Weining again." Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. After spending some effort to find several books on economics on the bookshelf, he went straight to a window seat on the second floor and sat down to read them quietly. Time fleeted by. In the blink of an eye, half of the afternoon had passed. Tan Xiu's reading speed was very fast. He had already finished reading the second book and had also turned more than a dozen pages of the third book. He had even made more than a dozen pages of notes in this half of the afternoon. "Go away. We're not suitable for each other." A faint voice floated from afar. Tan Xiu looked up. He could tell from the voice that the one who said this was Mu Weining. Immediately after, a loud and clear voice also came over. "Weining, I like you from the bottom of my heart. Please give me a chance. I promise I'll make you happy." "I'm sorry, but I don't need it." "Weining, don't be like this, okay? I'm our campus's most handsome boy, and you're our campus's belle. We're a match made in heaven, and we should be together. You know what? I've been preparing for a long time to confess to you today. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, you can tell me. I'll definitely try to change and become the type you like." "Classmate, please be clear about this. I don't even know your name. Why should I agree to your pursuit? Besides, I already have someone I like. If I agree to be with you, it'll be irresponsible to you. So please get out of the way. We need to leave." "Mu Weining, you're deliberately brushing me off, aren't you? I've already investigated you. You don't have a boyfriend at all. Let go of me." "I won't let go." Downstairs, the noise became louder and louder. Tan Xiu closed his textbook, got up, and walked to the staircase on the second floor. Looking at the scene of many people gathered below, a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He knew that boy. He was a senior in the 3rd year of Shanghai University. He had been named as the most handsome boy in the school for 3 consecutive years. Not only was he handsome, but he also had good grades. He was also the vice captain of the school's basketball team. It was said that his family was also rich and powerful. However, Tan Xiu also knew some things. For example, more than 2 years ago, he had once impregnated a girl and even abandoned her. Another example was that in his sophomore year, he had a total of more than 10 relationships. Once, he had sex with a girl in a car and was caught by his real girlfriend. And his real girlfriend was ruthless enough. She took a mobile phone video and uploaded it to the school forum. Although it was deleted very quickly, it was still seen by many people. In short, in many people's eyes, the boy named Lian Kang was a real scumbag. However, because of Lian Kang's family background, his good luck with boys, and his close relationship with some shady people in society, not many people in Shanghai University dared to provoke him. For example, there were definitely more than 100 boys gathered around, but Lian Kang had made a move on Mu Weining. Even if those boys were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to beat Lian Kang up, no one really dared to stand up for him. Chapter 518. Pulling out one's sword to help in the face of injustice was the demeanor of a chivalrous swordsman. Tan Xiu was not a chivalrous swordsman, but he couldn't help but want to help in the face of such a situation. Ring ring, ring, a faint ringtone sounded, accompanied by a vibration from Tan Xiu's pocket. When he reached for his mobile phone, Jiang Fian, who was next to Mu Weining, had already pounced toward Lian Kang. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, her cherry lips fiercely bit Lian Kang's wrist that was grabbing Mu Weining. Ouch. Are you a fucking dog? Lian Kang felt the pain. After releasing Mu Weining, he slapped Jiang Fian's cute little face, causing her to sit on the floor. This scene, it caused a commotion among the onlookers. Tan Xiao frowned, but he didn't immediately flare up. Instead, he took out his mobile phone and looked at the caller ID. After finding that it was Kang Xia, he picked up the call and said, "Wait a moment. I gotta deal with something. I'll call you back later." "Alright." Kang Xia replied and then hung up the phone. Tan Xiao walked down the stairs. At the same time, he clapped his hands and said aloud, "What an awe-inspiring show. You're a 7 feet tall man. Yet you slapped a little girl to the floor. What's most inconceivable to me is that you're all so angry, yet you're all cowards. Nobody dares to step forward and speak a word of justice for these girls. TSK. Don't you realize that this is the best time to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Do you want to give up the chance to win the beauty just because you're afraid of her?" In an instant, hundreds of pairs of eyes fell on Tan Xiao. Even though few people paid attention to Tan Xiao for some time, he was, after all, a popular man in the campus and everyone could recognize Tan Xiao. Furthermore, after hearing Tan Xiao's words, those boys' faces flushed red. Shame and regret could be seen in their eyes. At this time, a sturdy boy came forward and loudly said, "Don't talk nonsense, Tan Xiao. We just didn't have the time. We didn't like Lian just now, but we didn't expect him to hit someone. If I had known earlier, I would have been the first to rush out and help these girls out." That's right. We just haven't had the time. This guy surnamed Lian is too shameless. He actually hit a female classmate and even groped her. This is fucking. I really feel ashamed to have an alumnus like Lian Kang. I'll definitely publicize what happened today and let all the teachers and students know his ugly face. I regret it. I regret that I didn't come out and beat him up just now so that he will remember this lesson. This guy is asking for a beating. The #1 goddess of Shanghai University is not someone he can lay his hands on. Why don't you take a good look at yourself? While countless male students loudly expressed their support, Mu Weining Li Xinjia, as well as Jiang Fian's group of 3 who were pulled up by the 2 girls, had their eyes lit up at the same time as they looked at Tan Xiao with eyes full of gratitude. "Beat him up." Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted. In just a second or two, dozens of male students rushed toward Lian Kang. Their fists and feet directly knocked down Lian Kang and several of his classmates, and then gave them a good beating. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mu Weining and the other 2 girls hurriedly squeezed out of the crowd and strode toward Tan Xiao. "Thank you, Tan Xiao," said Mu Weining softly. Tan Xiao shook his head with a faint smile. He then looked at Jiang Fian and asked, "Are you all right?" Jiang Fian touched the 5 red and swollen handprints on her cheek. She shook her head and smilingly said, "I'm fine. I also bit him. That Lian Kang is really disgusting. If I knew that he would hit me, I would have used my lift kick on him and made him die without descendants in this life." Ugh. Although Tan Xiao was quite courageous, he still shrunk his neck upon hearing Jiang Fian's words and felt a chill run down his back. At this moment, it was as if the saying, "A woman's heart is the most poisonous," had been completely verified. Mu Weining's pretty face blushed. She grabbed Jiang Fian's shoulder and said, "Thank you, Fian." Jiang Fian shook her head and smilingly said, "We're good sisters, no need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Tan Xiao. If it weren't for him, maybe Lian Kang would have hit me." Mu Weining looked at Tan Xiao with particularly bright eyes. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, she said, "Tan Xiao, you should be a good person to the end. Can you help me solve this problem?" "Don't worry." Tan Xiao nodded and smilingly said, "I'm not talking about Lian Kang." Mu Weining shook her head. "I'm talking about all boys." "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiao with a strange expression. Mu Weining plucked up her courage and seriously said, "Let's announce to the public that I'm your girlfriend and you're my boyfriend. No matter who confesses to me in the future, I can openly tell them that I already have a boyfriend and won't consider anyone else. But I'm afraid this matter is very unfair to you, and it should bring you some trouble." Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and recalled the scene of Mu Weining being surrounded by a lot of boys several times in the library. Finally, he nodded and lightly said, "All right. I've also received a lot of confessions from girls, so we can be considered as mutually beneficial." Mu Weining immediately got excited and heavily nodded. "Thank you." Tan Xiao waved his hand and turned to look at the chaotic scene. He then shouted, "Everyone stop. If you beat that surnamed Lien to death, all of you will be shot to death. Also, you'll be punished by the school even if you seriously injure him." In an instant, the boys who were beating up Lien Kong and his classmates with anger finally realized the consequences of their actions. They stopped and retreated one after another. In the open space that was vacated, Lien Kong and his 3 classmates were beaten black and blue, with even bloodstains on their faces. However, the most miserable one was Lien Kong. One of his arms was obviously broken and deformed. Tan Xiao shook his head and walked to Lien Kang's side. He squatted down and grabbed Lien Kang's struggling arm. He exerted force with both hands and instantly put his broken arm back in place. Aarg! His scream was like that of a pig being slaughtered, making people's hearts tremble. "Don't move if you don't want to become a cripple," said Tan Xiao lightly. "I've helped you set the bones in your arm, but don't move and don't carry heavy things for the next few days. As for the other injuries on your body, go to the school infirmary to deal with them." Lien Kong endured the sharp pain and roared, "You bastard, Tan Xiao! You don't need to shed crocodile tears for me. If it weren't for you, would this father have been beaten? Do you dare to say it again?" Tan Xiao frowned. "I said it. What can you do to this father?" Lien Kong roared. Tan Xiao shook his head. He reached out to break the bones he had just set, and then kicked his face. As the blood from his nose intensified, he sneered and said, "You're just a wretched wretch in my eyes. A dog that bites Lu Dongbin. Once today's matter is spread out that you molested and groped girls, and even turned into beating a female student, I'm afraid your reputation will be ruined, and you may even have to bear criminal responsibility. Of course, you were indeed beaten by your classmates, but you've aroused public anger. I believe that even if this matter reaches the ears of the school's leaders, they will be dealt with leniently." After that, Tan Xiao turned around and walked to Mu Weining's side, saying in a deep voice, "Mu Weining may be my girlfriend, but I've already given you face by not hitting you first. I've already given you face, yet you don't want it. You only have yourself to blame for ending up like this. We still need to talk about love, so there's no need to waste time on a scumbag like you." Immediately after, he grabbed Mu Weining's hand and walked upstairs. "Girlfriend?" At first, all the boys were secretly grateful for Tan Xiao's warning to Lien Kong. But after hearing Tan Xiao's declaration that Mu Weining was his girlfriend, their eyes turned hostile. At this moment, anyone with a good brain could realize that they seemed to have been used by Tan Xiao. Just because Tan Xiao mocked them with sarcastic words, they violently beat Lien Kong. On the second floor, Tan Xiao brought Mu Weining, Jiang Fian, and Li Xinjie to the desk where he was reading a book and said, "You read your book first. I have something to do and need to make a phone call." Mu Weining gently nodded and said, "Go ahead. I'll read my book first." Tan Xiao took out his mobile and dialed Kong Xia's number. Then he asked, "I've almost finished dealing with the matter here. What's the matter that you just called me about?" "Boss, the senior executives of our company have discussed the launch date of the healthcare products. Since we have a lot of stock now, we've decided to start selling them on November 1st. Do you think this time is okay? Have the stores all over the country been prepared?" Tan Xiao asked. "Almost," said Kong Xia. "We've spent a lot of money and bought all the stores next to the God's Nectar exclusive store in every city. The renovation has also reached the final stage and will be completed in a few days." "What about the sales staff?" asked Tan Xiao. "They've also been trained and assigned to their posts," said Kong Xia. "However, there's still one problem that hasn't been solved yet." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiao. "It's the security issue," said Kong Xia. "Once our healthcare products go on the market, I'm afraid we'll be crazily scrambled. The security issue will be exposed at that time." "How many security guards do we need?" asked Tan Xiao. "We've calculated it. We can save a lot of people from the security guards of the God's Nectar exclusive store in every city, said Kongxia. But we need at least 80 to 100 people. Got it. I'll think of a way, said Tanxiu. Also, I'll be visiting the major commercial districts in Shanghai in the near future. If it doesn't work, we'll enclose some land for large-scale construction. I happen to know some real estate developers in Shanghai. Chapter 519. After hanging up, Tanxiu pondered for a moment, and then searched for Jin Xingkui's number. But after hesitating for a while, he still didn't dial it. What are you going to do next? I have something to prepare, so I'm afraid I won't have time to accompany you. Tanxiu looked at the three women. At this time, Mu Weining was in a very good mood. Even if she and Tanxiu were only boyfriend and girlfriend in name, she believed that as long as she continued to work hard and put in the effort, it wouldn't be a problem in the future. Therefore, a charming smile hung on her beautiful face as she softly said, "Let's go back to the dorm. Let's leave the library together." All right. Tanxiu packed up the books and put 2 of them back to the original bookshelf. He then picked a few more books and registered them at the registration counter before leaving the library with Mu Weining and the other 2 women. Their departure attracted many people's attention, but no one dared to come forward to strike up a conversation. However, Tanxiu was worried that Lian Kong would have extreme emotions after being beaten up, so he sent the 3 women to the female dormitory. "We'll go up first." Jiang Fian winked at Mu Weining, and then pulled Li Xinjie toward the dormitory's gate with a beaming smile. Mu Weining let out a tranquil smile as she calmly looked at Tanxiu and said, "I know you're very busy, but you have to pay attention to your health. Call me immediately if there's anything you need me to do." "Don't worry," Tanxiu said with a smile. "I'll take care of myself." Mu Weining suddenly stepped forward and raised her hands to tidy up Tanxiu's untidy collar. Under the astonished expressions of many boys and girls in the surroundings, she said with a smile, "I may be your fake girlfriend now, but we still have to show some intimacy in front of others. I think that if you hug me now, it will let a lot of boys who have been harassing me know that I'm already taken." Tanxiu hesitated for a moment. He turned his head and glanced around. A bitter smile appeared on his handsome face, but he still gently held Mu Weining in his arms. Feeling her tenderness and warmth, Tanxiu whispered in her ear, "Is it okay now?" Mu Weining hugged Tanxiu back. This time, she used a lot of strength and kept hugging him for more than 20 seconds. Only then did she reluctantly let go of Tanxiu and said with a chuckle, "That's enough. Then I'm leaving." Tanxiu turned around and waved his hand as he walked away. Mu Weining stood there with a very sweet smile on her face. There was even a trace of dimple on her face that was filled with classic beauty. In many people's eyes, her smile was filled with happiness. This made many women jealous, and many men heartbroken. However, what broke those men's hearts the most was not the hug just now, nor was it the happy smile on Mu Weining's face at this time. It was Mu Weining staring at Tanxiu's back as he left. It was not until Tanxiu disappeared at the end of the long path that Mu Weining showed a hint of reluctance. She turned around and walked toward the dormitory building. The number 1 beauty of Shanghai University, Mu Weining, is in love with the celebrity student, Tanxiu. After this news appeared on the forum of Shanghai University, it was as if it had grown wings. In just 1 or 2 hours, all the students of Shanghai University knew about this matter. Even many teachers, professors, and senior leaders of the university had heard about it. For a moment, in the comment section of the university forum, countless boys started to bombard Tanxiu. Many of their words were full of insults. At the same time, Mu Weining was also scolded by countless people. The ones who scolded her were all the boys who said that they were sour grapes. Of course, many people also respected and worshipped Tanxiu very much. All kinds of comments such as a handsome man and a beautiful woman, and a beautiful hero, also appeared one after another. As a result, after several hours of brewing, 2 factions had formed on the campus forum. One faction was the students who secretly used sock puppets to hurl abuse, while the other was the students who openly posted in support of Tanxiu and Mu Weining. In short, the forum of Shanghai University could be said to be very lively. As one of the parties involved, Tan Xiao had already left Shanghai University and appeared in the study room of Blue Star Villa complex. He was concentrating on drawing and architectural design. Previously, he had an agreement with Jin Xingkui that he would hand over the architectural design to him after it was done. However, because of various things, coupled with the fact that he often took time to make various talismans after returning from the capital, he was still not finished. Fortunately, Jin Xingkui was not in a hurry. He had been preparing for the preliminary work. In the evening, Tan Xiao put down his brush. After a moment of contemplation, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Han Qingwu's cell phone number. At this time, Han Qingwu was in her rented house, watching the news on the university forum. Her expression was very stiff, and she had been maintaining this expression for more than half an hour. Her heart was in a mess. Even she herself didn't understand what was going on with her. Why was it that after the news of Tan Xiao and Mu Weiniang's relationship was made known to her, she felt as if something was missing in her heart? A very, very important thing. This kind of uncomfortable feeling made her at a loss for what to do and made her quite scared. Ring, ring, ring. The ringtone of her mobile phone startled Han Qingwu. When she came back to her senses, she found that her cheeks were unexpectedly cold. She didn't know when it happened, but tears were flowing down. She grabbed her mobile phone. When Han Qingwu saw that the caller's name was Tan Xiao, she looked slightly dazed. She quickly raised her arm to wipe the tears on her face. After clearing her throat, she picked up the call and said, "I'm Han Qingwu. What's the matter?" "Teacher Han, do you have time tonight? I'll treat you to dinner." "I don't have time." Upon hearing Tan Xiao's voice, Han Qingwu's anger rushed to her heart, and her tone was also very harsh. "Teacher Han, did I provoke you recently?" Tan Xiao forced a smile. "Did I eat gunpowder or something? Why do you care?" Han Qingwu blurted out. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment. Then he forced a smile and said, "Teacher Han, I don't know why you're in a bad mood, but I sincerely want to treat you to dinner. If you really don't have time, then forget it. I'll treat you another day. That's all for now. I'll hang up first." "Where?" Feeling that Tan Xiao was about to hang up, Han Qingwu hurriedly asked. After asking, a taste of regret arose inside her heart. "Come to the everlasting feast hall," Tan Xiao said. "I'll wait for you there." "All right," Han Qingwu replied and directly hung up. She couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Why couldn't she control her emotions when facing Tan Xiao? Did she fall in love with him? Jealous? Han Qingwu felt that it was a bit, but not entirely. It seemed that ever since she heard Tan Xiao's zither playing and singing at the freshman welcoming party of the University of Shanghai, those images appeared in her mind. Tan Xiao's position in her heart had suddenly become important. Even when she inadvertently saw him, she could often imagine Tan Xiao's face, Tan Xiao's every move, word, and smile. Why did those images appear in my mind? I've lived for more than 20 years, and it's impossible for me to experience those scenes. I shouldn't have such memories at all. Why is that? Han Qingwu rubbed her head. Amidst the headache, she suddenly remembered that Tan Xiao said he would treat her to dinner tonight. In a flash, she bounced up from the sofa and rushed into the cloakroom at a speed beyond the limits of an ordinary person. At the everlasting feast hall, Tan Xiao was sitting quietly in the luxurious private room on the third floor, drinking tea and smoking a cigarette while thinking about something. Although he had lived a fulfilling life every day in the past half a month, he still hadn't finished the business and the things he had promised others. Even though he had already finished all those things. Ring, ring. His cell phone's ringtone interrupted Tan Xiao's thoughts. When he grabbed the phone and saw an unfamiliar number from the imperial capital, he immediately raised his brows and picked it up, saying, "Tan Xiao speaking. Who's this?" "Hello, Grandmaster Tang. I'm Situ Chao. I, the Jinmen family, and the Li family have arrived in Shanghai. Where are you now? We're going to find you now." Tan Xiao thought for a moment and slowly said, "You should settle down first. I'm going to invite some people to dinner outside. After I'm done here, I'll bring the things you need to find you." "How would we dare to ask Grandmaster Tang to find us?" Situ Chao quickly said. "How about this? Just tell us a place and we'll wait for you there." Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and then said, "Then go to the Blue Star Villa complex. I'll be there as soon as possible since I'm staying in the 9th villa." "All right." After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile. He was just wondering when the three families of the strange doors would come to Shanghai to take their things. He didn't expect that this man would really rush to Shanghai now. However, he had something to ask of Han Qinggu. Since he had decided to invite Han Qinggu to dinner tonight, he couldn't let Han Qinggu down. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fulfill his request. In front of the bar on the first floor, the corners of Qi Nan's mouth curled into a smile as she cheerfully greeted the guests who came and left one by one. When Han Qinggu arrived in casual attire, Qi Nan found that Han Qinggu had obviously put on some light makeup, which made her beauty more intense. "Miss Han, you're here." Han Qinggu chuckled and said, "Tan Xiu called me and told me to find him. He should be here already, right?" "The boss has arrived. He's waiting for you in the restaurant on the 3rd floor." Qi Nan smiled and said, "I'll take you there." "Thank you." Han Qinggu nodded and expressed her gratitude. "You don't have to be so polite with me, Miss Han. You're my boss's friend, a good friend, so it's my duty to entertain you well. You're so beautiful today, Miss Han." Han Qinggu stared blankly and her pretty face slightly blushed. She recalled that she ran to the dressing table to put on makeup before going out. She almost raised her hand to cover her face. Suppressing the embarrassment inside, she squeezed out a smile and said, "Thank you, Manager Qi, you're also very beautiful today." Qi Nan smiled and said, "I can't. I'm too old. If I were your age, I would have definitely snatched my boss's heart from you." "Thank you, Shiyumuda Beauty, for your generous rewards and support. I was too impulsive yesterday. I shouldn't have opened a single chapter to complain, causing many brothers and sisters to be scolded by the trolls in the book review section. Today, I'll continue with the 3rd chapter. I wish brothers and sisters a happy National Day _. Chapter 520. The smile on Han Qingwu's face deepened upon hearing Qi Nan's words. Just as she was about to say some modest words, her expression suddenly froze and her footsteps came to a halt. "Manager Qi, what did you say?" Qi Nan said with a smile. "I say I'm too old. Is there a problem?" Han Qingwu shook her head and said, "Didn't you just say that you'll snatch your boss's heart from me?" "That's for sure," said Qi Nan with a smile. Han Qingwu slightly furrowed her brows and forced a smile. "I think you're mistaken. Manager Qi Tanxiu's heart is not with me. He already has a girlfriend, the first campus belle of Shanghai University, Mu Weining. Please don't make such a joke again in the future." "I've seen Miss Mu, Miss Han," said Qi Nan with a charming smile. "She's indeed a rare beauty. If I were a man, I'd definitely like such a stunning beauty. However, I don't think her position in our boss's heart is very important. I'm also very curious as to how she became our boss's girlfriend." Han Qingwu didn't want to talk about this topic anymore, but upon hearing Qi Nan's words, her heart slightly moved and she said, "I don't quite understand what you mean, Manager Qi." Qi Nan meaningfully looked at Han Qingwu and smilingly said, "Miss Han, since you're not an outsider, then I'll tell you a few things I've seen and thought about. I've seen a lot of women brought by our boss. Some of them are very beautiful and outstanding, such as Ouyang Lulu, the superstar Zhang Xinya, and the magnificent Tang Corporation's general manager, Kong Xia. But I don't think our boss likes them very much. He even seems to deliberately keep a distance from them. Maybe you don't know about it, but I'm surprised to find that our boss is very calm when facing them. No matter what happens, he seems to be able to deal with it with a normal mind. But there's one person who makes him very unusual." Qi Nan's words came to a halt. "Who is it?" Han Qingwu stared at Qi Nan with a blank expression. "It's you," said Qi Nan with all seriousness. "Me?" Han Qingwu asked incredulously. "Why me?" Qi Nan said, "Haven't you noticed? Sometimes, our boss will be very nice to you. Sometimes he will stare at you in a daze for a few seconds. Sometimes he would be very cold to you, as if he was rejecting you. This change in his emotions was caused by you." Han Qingwu was stunned. Although she was looking at Qi Nan, her mind was recalling all the time she had spent with Tan Xiu. She found that what Qinan said was true. Tang Xiu did sometimes stare at her in a daze. Sometimes, there was even a hint of tenderness in his eyes. But there were also times when he was very indifferent toward her, showing a distant and unapproachable look. In addition, his eyes would sometimes reveal a look of pain, and sometimes they would reveal anger and hatred. Why was that? Qinan patted Han Qingwu's shoulder and said with a smile, Miss Han, I don't know what happened between you and our boss, but you're the only woman who can make him emotionally unstable. So I congratulate you. If you can seize this opportunity, you may become our boss's wife in the future. Han Qingwu opened her mouth, wanting to explain. But she found that Qinan didn't give her the chance to speak, and went straight upstairs. However, Qinan's words made her inexplicably happy, especially the word boss's wife. It was like a curse that kept echoing in her mind. Quickly, under Qinan's lead, Han Qingwu went to the third floor. When she entered the door, she saw that there was only Tan Xiu in the luxurious dining room. Her expression turned a bit unnatural. Boss Miss Han is here, Qinan said with a smile. Tan Xiu got up. Despite feeling a bit helpless inside, he still squeezed out a smile on his face. He put on a cordial appearance and said with a smile, I've ordered some dishes and red wine, Teacher Han. I said I'll treat you to a big meal today, so I'll definitely serve you well. After saying that, Tan Xiu pulled the chair opposite him and motioned Han Qingwu to sit down. Han Qingwu slowly turned her head and found that Qinan had already left and closed the door from the outside. She hesitated for a moment before she walked to the chair and sat down. Tan Xiu returned to his seat and said with a smile, Teacher Han, I found that you seem to be a lot more haggard. Did something happen? Han Qingwu shook her head. Her eyes stared straight at Tan Xiu for a while. She stared at Tan Xiu until he felt a bit uncomfortable. Then she said, It's like a pie falling from the sky. I never thought that it would happen to me. I don't think I'll be able to eat such a big meal for no reason. Tell me, what's your wishful thinking about inviting me to a meal? Tan Xiu looked a bit embarrassed after his thoughts were exposed. He recalled the indifference and rejection he showed to Han Qingwu before. He raised his hand to touch his nose and forced a smile. You're really smart and considerate, Teacher Han. I found that you're just like the goddess of wisdom. Nothing can escape your eyes. Pfft. It was the first time for Han Qingwu to hear such mushy words coming out of Tan Xiu's mouth. She couldn't help but burst into laughter. She rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu and grunted. You're unaccountably solicitous, so you're hiding evil intentions. Tell me. Don't flatter me. I want to know your purpose. Tan Xiu clapped his hands and smilingly said, See? What did I just say? You're really smart. Actually, I don't have anything big to trouble you, but I may have some urgent matters to deal with in the near future, so I'm afraid I have to ask for a leave for a few days. I hope you can approve it, Teacher Han. Ask for a leave? Han Qingwu's tone was raised as she glared at Tan Xiu and angrily said, No. Are you going to fall into your old habits again? I really do have something urgent to deal with. Tan Xiu forced a smile. Just think about it. I'm a dignified big boss, and there are a lot of things I need to deal with. I've been studying and attending classes every day for half a month, and a lot of things have been piling up. If I don't deal with them, I'll be in big trouble. Please give me a few days of leave for the sake of saving your life. I promise I won't delay my studies. Han Qingwu was silent for a while and then asked, What are you going to do when you ask for a leave? Kong Xia contacted me today. The magnificent Tang Corporation has a very important product that will be launched in the market soon, so I need to pay attention to this matter, said Tan Xiu. Also, my friend and I are investing in real estate development in Shanghai. The project there is about to start soon, so I need to finalize the final cooperation plan with her. Also, I'm afraid I have to go to the South China Sea. There's something very important that I need to deal with. The South China Sea? What are you going to do there? Asked Han Qingwu with a puzzled expression. I'm going to buy an island, said Tan Xiu. Han Qingwu rolled her eyes and snappily said, Are you bragging? You want to buy an island? How can you come up with such a ridiculous excuse? I'm not joking. I'm really going to buy an island in the south of the South China Sea. It's very useful, said Tan Xiu with all seriousness. Han Qinggu stared blankly and was silent for more than 10 seconds. Then she said, I don't have many classes recently, and I'm not feeling well and in a bad mood, so I'm going to ask for a leave for a few days. If you promise to take me with you to the South China Sea, I'll choose to believe you. What are you going to do with me? Asked Tan Xiu with a strange expression. To monitor me? Han Qinggu snorted and said, You can interpret it that way. In any case, I'm going out to relax. Just tell me if you want to take me or not. If you don't, looking at Han Qinggu's threatening look, Tan Xiu had no other emotions except for a wry smile and helplessness inside. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, I can take you with me, but you have to promise me something. What is it? Han Qinggu spread out her hands and asked. If I have something to do in the future, you have to approve my leave, said Tan Xiu. You can't stop me as long as I can pass the year-end exam. Even if I don't attend classes in school for the whole semester, you can't have any opinion about it. You can't make things difficult for me in the credit evaluation. I promise, replied Han Qinggu happily this time. Tan Xiu shook his head and forced a smile. To be honest, I'm really happy and worried to have a teacher in charge like you. Well, the food will be served soon. Let's eat and talk. Sure enough. Not long after Tan Xiu's voice faded away, the door of the dining room was knocked. As the door was pushed open, Qinan personally carried the plates and came in with several beautiful waiters. After putting the dishes and wine on the table, Qinan said with a smile, Boss, the food you ordered has been delivered. Please call me directly if you need anything else. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, All right. Go do your thing. The food was eaten and the wine was drunk. Han Qinggu and Tan Xiu didn't chat much. Halfway through the conversation, Han Qinggu glanced at Tan Xiu and suddenly said, The campus is abuzz today. Your relationship with Mu Weining has been announced, hasn't it? Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and said, That's just a fake. I'm inexplicably famous, and many girls in the campus are showing their affection to me. Some of them even came to confess to me, making me very annoyed and vexed. Mu Weining also has the same trouble, so we discussed it and decided to pretend to be a couple to cut off other people's thoughts. Pretending to be a couple? Han Qinggu was happy inwardly, but she maintained a calm expression and said, So to say the uproar on the campus forum is fake. That's right. Tan Xiu nodded. I received a call from my dormitory classmates and also saw the news on the campus forum. We did that hug on purpose so that others would see it. So it's like that. After learning the whole story, the depression in Han Qingwu's heart disappeared and was replaced by an inexplicable joy and joy. Sorry, there's a problem in the back end, so the update is late. Chapter 521. Blue Star Villa Complex. More than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars slowly stopped at the gate. After registering their information, they were allowed by the security guards to enter the villa complex. On the balcony of the third floor of Villa number 11, Yang Lu sat comfortably with a glass of red wine in his hand and a thick cigar in the corner of his mouth. Next to him were two blonde, blue-eyed, young and beautiful girls. They snuggled up to him and from time to time showed intimate actions with him. Sweethearts, if you serve this young master well tonight, I promise to provide for the two of you in the future. I'll let you live a good life without worrying about food and clothing. Yang Lu spat out the smoke in his mouth, reached out and hugged the blonde girl next to him, and kissed her pink little face. Honey, I'll definitely serve you well. The blonde girl deliberately showed a shy look, but also boldly said. Yang Lu felt happy, and was about to make a move to satisfy his craving. Suddenly, his ears twitched and he looked at the road under the street lamp not far away. When he saw more than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars slowly coming in this direction, he suddenly raised his brows. There's a big shot. Yang Lu also understood in his heart when he saw this kind of lineup. However, he was very curious. Who would come with such fanfare so late at night? When the convoy drove past Villa number 11 and finally stopped in front of Villa number 9, Yang Lu couldn't help but roll his eyes. Although he had guessed that Tan Xiu's identity was very unusual, he didn't expect that he would play such a big lineup. Could it be that that black-hearted Tang has provoked some great big shot? Did he come here to pick a fight? Young Lu thought darkly. In front of Villa Number 9, more than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars stopped, and middle-aged men wearing black suits and sunglasses got out of the cars. The doors of the 3 Mercedes-Benz cars in the middle were opened by several middle-aged men. That's on the balcony of the 3rd floor of Villa Number 11. After Yang Lu saw the person coming out of the car in the middle, his eyes widened in shock. Situ Chao, the biological son of the Situ family's patriarch, Situ Boyang, had now gradually taken over the Situ family. Perhaps it wouldn't take long for him to become the patriarch of the Situ family? Why is he here? Yang Lu desperately swallowed his saliva. After sending the 2 blonde beauties to the bedroom, he saw the other 2 figures coming out of the 2 Mercedes-Benz. My God! I'm not dreaming, right? Jin Men Tian, the master of the Jin Men clan? And Li Yuan, head of the Li family? The 2 of them were prominent seniors of the strange doors. Why would they come here in person? Are they all here for Tan Xiu? Young Li's eyeballs almost fell out of his eye sockets. Even though his identity wasn't simple, when he saw Situ Chao, Jin Men Tian, and Li Yuan, his legs went soft. Because he knew very well how terrifying the combined strength of these 3 people would be. That's not right. If they were looking for Tan Xiu, there's no need for them to make such a big fuss. Could it be that I guessed correctly? Did they come to look for trouble with Tan Xiu? As he thought up to there, Yang Lu immediately took out his mobile and dialed Tan Xiu's number. After the other party picked up, he lowered his voice and hurriedly said, Tan Xiu, where are you now? What's the matter outside? Tan Xiu's voice came from the phone. Yang Lu felt relieved and quickly said, Tan Xiu, just stay outside. Don't ever come back. What the hell are you doing? How did you provoke the Situ family, the Jin Men clan, and the Li family at the same time? These 3 families can hold up half of the sky in the entire strange doors. Listen to me and quickly leave. Hide as far as you can and don't ever come back. On the 3rd floor of the Everlasting Feast Hall, a strange expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face. He didn't expect that Yang Lu would call him and unexpectedly say such words. It was a misunderstanding. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said, I'll give you half the price if you want to worship me as your master. Make money well, and I'll be waiting for you to take 5 billion yuan to worship me as your master. Having said that, Tan Xiu directly hung up the phone. Yang Lu was dumbfounded. Never in his dreams did he expect that not only did Tan Xiu ignore his advice, but he even talked about worshipping him as a master. What's going on here? Can't he see that I'm doing this out of good intentions? He thought about it. Yang Lu decided to go to Villa Number 9 himself. Even if Tan Xiu had provoked those 3 families, he was, after all, a member of the thief sect. Considering the face of his deceased master, they shouldn't make things difficult for him. Perhaps he could even speak a few good words for Tan Xiu. A few minutes later, when Yang Lu neatly dressed and appeared outside the Villa Number 9's courtyard, he was stopped by 4 stalwart men. Who are you? One of them coldly asked. I live in Villa Number 11, a neighbor of this family, said Yang Lu. The big man said, What's the matter? If there's nothing else, I hope you can leave. Yang Lu raised his hand and quickly made a few gestures. The 4 men's complexion slightly changed as he walked into the courtyard and went straight to the villa's hall. When he saw the 2 nannies of Tan Xiu's house pouring tea for Situ Chao, Jin Men Tian, and Li Yuan, he suddenly looked dazed. Oh, little Lu from the thief sect is unexpectedly here. Am I seeing things? Situ Chao said with a smile after seeing Yang Lu. Yang Lu stepped forward and said with a flattering smile, Uncle Chao, you must be joking. I just found out that you 3 seniors came to my neighbor's house, so I came to greet you. You and Master Tang are neighbors. Situ Chao was surprised. Master Tang. Yang Lu felt that his brain couldn't process the situation as he asked with a blank expression. Uncle Chao, the Master Tang you mentioned is Tan Xiu? That's right, said Situ Chao. Yang Li's lips squirmed a few times as he reluctantly digested the address. Then he said, I live in Villa Number 11 next door. I'm indeed Tang, Master Tang's neighbor. Also, our relationship is quite good. At this moment, Yang Li's heart was collapsing. He originally thought that Situ Chao and the others were looking for trouble with Tan Xiao. He even kindly called Tan Xiao to remind him not to meet them. It turned out that he was mistaken. Situ Chao and the others were not looking for trouble with Tan Xiao. It should be regarded as a visit. What a disgrace. Situ Chao slowly nodded and said, Yang Lu, we came here to see Master Tang. He's having a meal with his friends outside and can't come back, so we're waiting for him here. You've seen us now, so if there's nothing else, you can go back first. Yang Lu quickly said, Uncle Chao, Grandpa Jinmen, Grandpa Li, if you don't mind, why don't you take the opportunity while Master Tang hasn't come back yet? His words came to an abrupt halt as he suddenly remembered that there were two scantily clad, blonde, and blue-eyed foreign girls in his house. It would be shameful if they were to see him. Situ Chao waved his hand and said, No need. We'll wait for him here. You go ahead with your business. Yang Lu quickly said, Yes. I won't disturb you then. If there's anything you need, just send someone to the next building number 11 to call me. I'll be there at any time. Having said that, he immediately left the hall. Jinmen Tian watched Yang Lu leave. He shook his head and smilingly said, It's supposed to be a joyous occasion for the Steel Sect to have such an outstanding junior. But it's a pity that the fate of that old bastard Three Hands isn't good. And he already met the King of Hell. The rest of the Steel Sect's good-for-nothings didn't hesitate to shed all pretense of cordiality in order to get the treasures left by that old bastard Three Hands. What a pity. The Steel Sect order was lost. If it was handed over to this Yang Lu, maybe he could rebuild the Steel Sect. Situ Chao lightly smiled and said, Uncle Jinmen, you probably don't know about it yet. He actually has the Steel Sect order in his hands, but he was disheartened by the other martial brothers of the Steel Sect. Not only did he cut off contact with them, but he also stayed abroad all year round. Even I didn't expect that he would return to China, and even live here. Jinmen Tian was surprised and asked, Is he really willing to give up? Will the Steel Sect's inheritance be broken just like that? Situ Chao shook his head and said, The Steel Sect's inheritance will never be broken as long as the Steel Sect's people are still alive. It's just that I think it's better if they don't rebuild the sect. Otherwise, I'm afraid that Yang Lu will be killed by him sooner or later given his eldest senior brother's character. That's right. Jinmen Tian nodded. 10 p.m. Tan Xiao sent Han Qingwu back to her residence and repeatedly promised that he would take her with him to the South China Sea. Only then did he ask for a few days of leave. He hurried back to Southgate Town, but before he arrived at his villa, Yang Lu blocked him outside the courtyard of Villa number 11. You're amazing, Grandmaster Tang. Yang Lu leaned on the door and said to Tan Xiao with a smile yet not a smile. Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and snappily said, Spit it out if you have something to say. Don't talk nonsense with a strange tone. Yang Lu pursed his lips and then asked, The three big families of the strange doors, the Situ family, the Jinmen family, and the Li family, unexpectedly came all the way to Shanghai to visit you in the Blue Star Villa complex. I'm really curious. What kind of deceitful methods did you use to make them look so respectful when they mentioned you? Swindling isn't appropriate to describe it. Tan Xiao said with a smile. I think it's correct for you to use genuine ability. Otherwise, do you think those big figures of the strange doors are fools? Yang Lu thought for a while before he nodded and said, You're right. But you haven't answered me yet. Who are you exactly? I told you I'm just a student, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Tan Xiao, if you don't tell me personally, I'll investigate it myself. Yang Lu angrily said. I'm very good at investigating intelligence, you know. Go. Tan Xiao gave him a pondering smile and strode toward his home. Chapter 522. The faint fragrance of tea permeated the air, and the old laughter was full of energy. When Tan Xiao entered the villa's door, he heard Jinmen Tian's carefree laughter. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. Tan Xiao walked toward the trio and said with a smile. Situ Chao was the first to stand up and said with a smile, You're too polite, Grandmaster Tang. It's rude of us to disturb you so late at night. Don't call me Grandmaster Tang anymore. Tan Xiu waved and said, just call me by my name. That's right, please wait here. I've prepared your things and will go upstairs to get them for you. A few minutes later, after putting on an act, Tan Xiu came downstairs with 3 black suitcases. After handing them to the trio, he said with a smile, check them. The trio exchanged glances and opened their suitcases. After checking them, they closed the suitcases with satisfaction. Tan Xiu, these evil-repelling talismans will play a vital role in our exploration of the ancient tomb in the future, Jean Mentian said with a smile. I won't say thank you words, but do remember to contact me if you have the opportunity to go to the northwest later. My Li family is located in the Miao region, Tan Xiu. Do remember to contact me as soon as you go there, said Li Yuan with a serious expression. Then I'll thank the 2 elders in advance, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Maybe I'll really disturb you in the future. After exchanging greetings, Tan Xiu sent the trio away. As the villa became quiet, he silently calculated the funds he had now. There was a total of 65 billion yuan. With such a huge amount, Tan Xiu had already thought about how to invest it, so he picked up his mobile and dialed Jin Xinkui's number. Brother Tang, I finally got your call. I've been looking forward to the stars and the moon these days, hoping that you can bring me the good news about the architectural design as soon as possible. Jin Xinkui's voice came out of the phone. I'm free tomorrow, Brother Jin. Shall we meet in the morning? Tan Xiu said with a smile. I have other projects aside from our project. I hope we can cooperate. There are other projects? Jin Xinkui was surprised. Brother Tang, can't you reveal a little bit in advance? Let me be mentally prepared in advance. I'm going to move the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ to Shanghai, said Tan Xiu. It would be best if he could find a suitable office building. If we can't find it, I'm afraid we'll have to invest a huge amount of money. Jin Xinkui was startled and said, I understand, Brother Tang. We'll discuss this matter tomorrow morning. All right. Tan Xiu agreed and hung up after setting up a meeting place with Jin Xinkui. Ring, ring, ring. Less than a minute after Tan Xiu hung up the phone, his phone rang. When he took out his mobile and saw that it was Long Zhengyu, he was about to answer it when his expression slightly moved, and he indifferently said, Come out. Don't be sneaky. Hee, Master Tang is really something. I thought that I would not be discovered by anyone when I appeared here. I didn't expect that you would still be able to detect me. Those 3 families didn't notice me at all. Yang Le said with a grin. They may be people from the occult sect, but how could their concealment methods be compared with your thief sect's people? Tan Xiu said. You've seen what you should see and heard what you should hear. I still have other things to do, so shouldn't you go back and rest? Don't mind me, I still have 2 questions. Yang Lu quickly said. Speak. Tan Xiu said lightly. Yang Lu approached Tan Xiu and curiously asked. Tan Xiu, what kind of deal did you make with those 3 families? Don't tell me it's like what Jean Mentian said, that it's the evil-repelling talisman. It's the evil-repelling talisman, said Tan Xiu. I can refine the evil-repelling talisman, and they happen to need it, so it's a mutually beneficial deal for both sides. It's true? Yang Lu was shocked. You can actually refine the evil-repelling talisman? You're really a godly person. Tell me the second question. Tan Xiu said. Do you want to answer the phone first? Yang Lu said. I can ask my second question later. Tan Xiu shook his head and said. I need to send you away first, then I'll answer the phone. Speak. Don't waste my time. All right. Yang Lu forced a smile. You just said on the phone that you want to move the magnificent Tang Corporation to Shanghai. Are you the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation? That's right. Tan Xiu directly admitted it. Yang Lu raised his thumbs up and praised. I knew that your identity is definitely not simple, but I didn't expect you to be this powerful. You must know that the magnificent Tang Corporation's business. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and said with all seriousness. You don't need to flatter me. I still have something to do, so can you leave now? Yang Lu stared blankly and forced a smile. All right. I'll go now, all right? You're really a busy man. Tan Xiao watched the resentful expression on Yang Li's face as he left. Through his spiritual sense, he monitored him until he returned to Villa number 11. Only then did he feel a bit relieved. To be honest, he admired Yang Lu from the bottom of his heart. He was unexpectedly able to sneak into his villa without anyone noticing, and even lurk for such a long time. Long Jingyu, why did you call me so late? Is something the matter? Tan Xiao called Long Jingyu and asked directly. Long Jingyu hurriedly said, Tan Xiao, there was a serious landslide in the Walled Hill Village project. At present, a total of 12 people were killed or injured in the landslide, and more than 20 people are missing. Tan Xiao's complexion changed as he asked in a deep voice, what exactly happened? Long Jingyu said with a bitter expression, do you remember what I told you before? There was a landslide in Walled Hill Village before, but because the accident was very small, I didn't take it seriously at that time. I thought that the ancient tomb was just an abandoned one that could be filled with soil. Who would have thought that there was a huge space below? I suspect that the empty tomb was just a camouflage, and the real ancient tomb is below. You mean the landslide was caused by the existence of the ancient tomb? Tan Xiao was astonished. Yes, it was caused by the ancient tomb, said Long Jingyu. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he seriously said, how did you deal with the accident scene? I've called the police, and the firefighters are now doing their best to search and rescue the missing workers. Also, the project there has been completely stopped, so I'm afraid it will be delayed for some time. Remember, saving people is the first priority, said Tan Xiao with a deep voice. I'll immediately rush back to Star City. Let's talk about it when we meet. All right. Long Jingyu quickly agreed. Tan Xiao came to the second floor. He picked up a few clean clothes and stuffed them into his interspatial ring. After feeding the fierce beast in the study, he quickly left the house. However, just as he walked a few steps away, he recalled something. When he passed by Villa number 11, he shouted, Yang Lu, come out. Shortly after, Yang Li's bare upper body appeared in Tan Xiao's line of sight. What? Tan Xiao asked. You may be a member of the thief sect, but you also belong to the occult sect. Have you ever explored ancient tombs? Yang Lu sneered. Grandmaster Tang, are you kidding me? The members of the Steel sect are all great masters in tomb robbing and treasure hunting. I'm only 26 years old this year, but the number of ancient tombs I've explored is definitely more than 3 digits. That's right, the gold, silver, and jewels you stole from me were obtained from an ancient tomb. If that's the case, then come with me. Tan Xiao nodded. Where are we going? Yang Lu asked doubtfully. Shuangqing Province, Star City, Tan Xiao said. Yang Lu was surprised. An ancient tomb has been found in Star City, right? Yes, an ancient tomb has been found there. Moreover, it's under my construction site, Tan Xiao said. It's collapsed now, causing many casualties and missing people. Come with me and follow me to the tomb to see the situation. Yang Lu was silent for a moment and asked, how will we divide the treasures we've explored? I'll take 90%, and you take 10%, Tan Xiao said. I'll give you 10%. Yang Lu angrily said, Surname Tang, you're too black-hearted. Go or not? Tan Xiao said indifferently. Yang Lu was speechless. He looked at Tan Xiao, who was about to leave, and hurriedly said, Don't. You're the master. Whatever you say, okay? Wait a minute. I still have two beauties at home. I'll go greet them and pack up my things. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. Remember to drive. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he reminded Yang Li's back. 4 o'clock in the morning. 2 SUVs rushed to Star City. This time, Tan Xiao not only brought Yang Lu, but also 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. From far away, Tan Xiao could see the brightly lit scene of Walled Hill Village's construction site. Many fire trucks and firefighters were working overnight to save people. Tan Xiao, why did you bring me here? Yang Lu, who was in the driver's seat, had a curious expression. This is Walled Hill Village, a project being developed by the Long family in Star City, Tan Xiao said. It's my property after the construction is completed, so I'm also responsible for the situation here. The ancient tomb we need to explore is under the construction site. It collapsed because of the existence of the ancient tomb. Yang Lu was astonished. That's right, Tan Xiu said. Soon after, the two cars arrived at a parking lot. Tan Xiu, Yang Lu, and the four experts quickly approached it. Long Jingyu, who had received Tan Xiu's call, quickly came over with his two confidants. What's the situation now? Asked Tan Xiu directly. 22 are injured, 6 are dead, and only 7 are missing. Long Jingyu said with a bitter expression. If my guess is correct, I'm afraid those 7 don't have much hope of survival. Tan Xiu said resolutely and decisively. Find them. We must find them all. If they're dead, we must see their corpses. Even if there's only a glimmer of hope, we must not give up. Thank you, brothers and sisters of the 3,000 great Daos, unique ones 52 Kaikai, silent floating cloud, and the others for your generous rewards and support. The monthly tickets for the 11th month will be doubled. Brothers and sisters, work hard and throw the monthly tickets. Today, I'll continue reading 3 chapters. Chapter 523. Long Jingyu solemnly nodded and said, I've already given the order. Aside from hundreds of workers and dozens of firefighters on the construction site, the city police and our Long family's security guards are also doing their best to search. You can rest assured that we'll find the missing workers even if we have to turn over every inch of the land. Let's go and help. Tan Xiu patted Long Jingyu's shoulder and strode toward the construction site. The moment he stepped into the site, he had already released his spiritual sense to cover a radius of 200 to 300 square meters. At this moment, he had already found 2 corpses and 4 workers who were still alive under the rubble. However, 2 of the 4 workers were seriously injured. If he didn't rescue them in time, they wouldn't be able to live for more than a few hours. At the same time, Tan Xiu also found a stair-shaped hole under the ruins. Tens of meters below the hole, there were several doors. Even his spiritual sense couldn't probe the innermost door. An array? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and quickly came to the ruins. He pointed down and said in a deep voice, Jingyu immediately sends someone to dig this place. Remember to be very careful. If I'm not mistaken, there should be trapped workers down there. Long Jingyu stared blankly and quickly crouched on the ground to listen. He then asked with a puzzled expression, How come I don't hear anything? My hearing is several times better than ordinary people, said Tan Xiu lightly. Long Jingyu pondered for a moment. Due to his absolute trust in Tan Xiu, he immediately called more than a dozen workers and several firefighters to start digging the waste above. Slow down. Tan Xiu didn't stay idle either. He took a pair of gloves and began to move the steel and cement. Even Yang Lu and the 4 experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall also joined in. 10 minutes later, a worker shouted, Boss, these steel and cement bars are pressed down by that big rock. We can't move them without a crane. If we don't move them, we won't be able to carry out the cleaning work. Long Jingyu frowned, a troubled expression on his face. It was unrealistic to call a crane at this time. The scene here was so chaotic that even using a crane would be very troublesome. Tan Xiu said, Get out of the way. I'll move it. The worker said angrily, Don't mess around. This stone is at least 400 or 500 pounds. Even a few adult men can't move it. Moreover, even if a few people were to move it at the same time, they would still need to clear up the surrounding things, which would waste time. So they might not be able to move it. Tan Xiu knew that the worker was right. The environment here was too bad. A slight carelessness could cause a second collapse, and the people above could be injured. If it was an ordinary person, perhaps 3 or 4 strong men would really have a hard time moving that stone out. However, was he an ordinary person? Tan Xiu directly pushed the worker away and shouted in a deep voice, Long Jingyu, tell the others to retreat. Clear a space for me. Hearing this, Long Jingyu immediately followed Tan Xiu's instructions. Immediately after, Tan Xiu stood in the deep pit and looked at the half-exposed boulder beside his feet. He hugged it with both hands and took a deep breath. What is he doing? Is he going to move that stone out alone? Is this young man stupid? Does he think he's a Hercules? He's overestimating himself. If he can move that big rock out, I'll eat that big rock. Alas, how could Chief Long have such a friend, really? The discussions around them were not concealed at all. At this time, even Yang Lu showed a disdainful look, secretly despising Tan Xiu for being too disgraceful. Even if Tan Xiu's skill was better, did he really think that his strength was great? Overestimating himself. Yang Lu muttered in his heart. However, Tang Xiu didn't pay attention to the comments around him. Before he exerted his strength, he easily moved the boulder that still had half of his body buried inside. However, in order not to be so eye-catching, he pretended to use all his strength to move the stone out with difficulty. Hiss! Yang Lu watched Tan Xiu move the boulder out. His eyeballs almost fell out of his eye sockets. Although he had a strong mind, he still could not help but gasp. And the surrounding workers, firefighters, and others who were just talking with disdain and sarcasm were all dumbfounded as if they were petrified. After a while, when Tan Xiu had thrown the stone out of the deep pit, they woke up one by one as if waking up from a dream. Oh my God! What did I just see? This is this Superman? A 400 or 500 kilograms big stone, he actually moved it out alone? God. A 400 or 500 kilograms big stone. Several people may not be able to move it. Not to mention that half of the stone was buried in the soil. How could he move it? This is simply inhuman. Too terrifying. Long Jingyu gave a thumbs up to Tan Xiu and then shouted in a deep voice, "Don't just stand there and do nothing. Hurry up and dig down. I think I heard a sound below, which means we're digging in the right place. Also, be careful not to cause a second collapse." Understood. The surrounding people looked at Tan Xiu in horror and shouted in unison. Time fleeted by. Half an hour later, dozens of people worked together and dug down 2 or 3 meters. Finally, they saw a hand raised up from the hole below. The hand was stained with blood, accompanied by shouts of help. Someone is still alive. A worker shouted excitedly. Immediately after, everyone became more energetic and finally spent a great deal of effort to successfully rescue the 2 seriously injured workers inside. Tan Xiu even personally treated the 2. Even if the medical facilities were limited, Tan Xiu had already saved their lives. As the hospital's paramedics took the 2 seriously injured workers away, Long Jingyu finally found the time to give a thumbs up to Tan Xiu and said, "Brother Tang, I know you're amazing. I believe in you. You have good hearing, so why don't you listen again and see if there are any other workers under the ground crying for help?" "All right," Tan Xiu replied. After pretending for a few minutes, he pointed to another place dozens of meters away and said, "There are people down there. They should still be alive." Long Jingyu was overjoyed and shouted, "Come on, dig and save them." Now everyone was convinced by Tan Xiu. Under Long Jingyu's order, dozens of people began to dig, and finally spent more than half an hour to successfully rescue the 2 people inside. "Jingyu, you said the number of missing people is 7? Tang Xiu released his spiritual sense and carefully searched every place. After searching every crack leading to the bottom, he still only found 4 people who were alive and 2 who were already dead. "Yes, it's really 7 people." Long Jingyu nodded. Tan Xiu's brows deeply furrowed, because he really couldn't find where the 7th person had gone. In other words, there were only 2 possibilities at present. The first one was that the number of missing people was wrong, and there were actually only 6 people buried under the ground. The second one was that one person was buried in the soil and didn't reveal a crack outside. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu walked around and randomly picked a few places to let everyone start digging. One of them was the place where the 2 bodies were buried. He then took Yang Lu and began to dig above the entrance of the ancient tomb. At the first glimmer of dawn, the 2 corpses were dug out. "Chief Long, we found them. We found them." A middle-aged man who looked like a leader ran into the ruins while panting and shouted. Long Jingyu led everyone to find the 7th missing worker. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's shout, he immediately asked loudly, "What do you mean?" The middle-aged man hurriedly said, "The 7th missing person is Li Quan. He skipped work and went out to drink. He just came back drunk. He's now sleeping in the ditch near the shed." "Bastard!" Long Jingyu flew into a rage and angrily cursed. Tan Xiu also heard the middle-aged man's words at this time. A wry smile appeared on his face as he walked to Long Jingyu's side and said, Zheng Yu, since all the missing people have been found, tell the police and firefighters to leave. Also, tell all the workers to go back and rest. Long Zheng Yu nodded without a word. After the tossing and turning, the police and firefighters left one after another, as well as the workers withdrew from the construction site. However, under Tan Xiu's quiet instructions, the dozens of security guards of the Long group did not leave. Instead, they blocked the collapsed construction site and prohibited anyone from entering. What's the meaning of this, Brother Tang? Long Zhengyu came to Tan Xiu's side and looked at Tan Xiu, Yang Lu, and the 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall who were still digging the ruins. A strange expression immediately appeared on his face. I suspect that the entrance to the ancient tomb is down there. Since the collapse happened, I want to go down and see what kind of ancient tomb it is, said Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu was shaken inwardly and hastily said in horror, Don't do anything stupid. You'll be trapped down there in case there's a second collapse. Don't worry, Tan Xiu said with a smile. I know what I'm capable of. I won't go down there and risk my life if I don't have the ability. Also, he's Yang Lu, a friend of mine. He has studied a lot of ancient tombs. I'll let him go with me, so you can rest assured. Long Zhengyu hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, I'll go with you. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, The most important thing for you now is not to go with me, but to appease the workers. Then go to the hospital to visit the wounded and comfort their families. As for the dead workers, give them heavy compensation. Take care of their families. Then what if? Long Jingyu hesitated. There's no if. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, Don't tell me you don't believe in my ability? Long Jingyu thought about it, and felt that he should indeed appear in the hospital to deal with the aftermath. Therefore he nodded and told Tan Xiu to be careful before he left the walled hill village construction site. Chapter 524. A red sun rose from the east, dispersing a lot of the cold air of the morning. After continuous excavation, the entrance of the ancient tomb finally appeared in front of everyone. Yang Lu obviously had a deep understanding of architectural structure. After his judgment, he determined that the node that caused the collapse was the entrance of this ancient tomb. Are you sure? Asked Tan Xiu curiously. It should be correct, said Yang Lu seriously. Originally, there should be a fake tomb above, just to deceive people. Inside the fake tomb, there should be a steel casting support pole that propped up the space of the fake tomb. As a result, when the construction was carried out above, it caused the fake tomb to collapse. Eventually, the supporting strength of the upper room of the staircase entrance weakened, causing the collapse. Who built a tomb here? Tan Xiu was puzzled. Who built a tomb here, and even used a fake tomb to deceive people? There are many kinds of ancient tombs, such as a tomb within a tomb, a serial tomb, a blindfold tomb, and so on, said Yang Lu. This tomb should be a blindfold tomb. Someone didn't want the real ancient tomb to be excavated, so they used a blindfold tomb. However, just looking at the width and height of the staircase, I'm afraid that the tomb below is a very large project. The deceased who can have such an ancient tomb are definitely nobles, generals, and so on. Nobles, generals, and so on? A disdainful look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. How could the tombs of nobles, generals, and so on have an array that could isolate the probing of divine sense? Let's go. Let's go down and have a look. Tang Xiu walked down step by step along the stairs that had been cleared. A few minutes later, he appeared in front of the first door with Yang Lu. Hiss! Yang Lu raised his hand and touched the 2-meter-high stone door. He couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. His expression was full of disbelief. What's wrong? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. Yang Lu pointed to the stone door and said with a trembling voice, Tang, Brother Tan Xiu, this stone door is a whole piece of diamond. God, I must be dreaming, because how could there be such a big piece of diamond in this world? And the most important thing is that this stone door was obviously cast by someone. Tan Xiu looked at the carved dragon, phoenix, and qilin patterns. Lifelike images of dragons, phoenixes, qilins, and other divine beasts looked as if they could rush out at any time. He understood Yang Li's shock. It was not difficult to carve patterns on diamond, But this ancient tomb did not exist in the current era. It was an ancient tomb. How did the ancient people do it? In addition, there was such a large piece of diamond, which was beyond Yang Li's understanding. Is there a way to open this door? This was what Tan Xiu was most concerned about. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to directly destroy this door. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to try. If he caused a cave-in, it would be difficult for him to escape even if he was powerful. After calming down from the shock, Yang Li's eyes shone with a scorching light. He shook his head and said, "I'm not sure yet. I need to study it." Tan Xiu urged, "We don't have much time, let's hurry up." Yang Lu asked in surprise, "Aren't there already guards outside? There should be plenty of time." "The news about this ancient tomb should have been exposed," said Tan Xiu lightly. "It's just that the State Department and the archaeologists haven't arrived yet. Once they arrive, what do you think we can get?" Yang Lu was startled and hurriedly said, "You're right, Brother Tan Xiu. Let's not talk about anything else. Just this diamond cast door alone is something we must take away. It's money, an inexhaustible amount of money. As long as we take this door away, we can get rich overnight and become super rich." "You're really ignorant." Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly. He no longer paid attention to Yang Lu and continued to study the stone door. To Tan Xiu's surprise, he couldn't find a way to open this stone door even after studying it. But Yang Lu, after studying it for a while, was able to make the stone door slowly open without him finding anything. "How did you do it?" Yang Lu proudly smiled and said, "It's an ancestral secret. Forgive me for not being able to tell you. But if you want to know, I can." His proud smile froze and his voice abruptly stopped before he could finish speaking. His eyes stared blankly at the retracting stone door on both sides, and his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. "Brother Tan Xiu, can you pinch me to make me feel whether I'm dreaming or not? In this world, a diamond cast door is unexpectedly more than 2 meters thick. This is too terrifying." Tan Xiu helplessly shook his head. He was too lazy to pay attention to this inexperienced person. He stepped into the door and walked down the stairs again. The second door was still opened by Yang Lu. Although this door was no longer cast from diamond, it didn't shock Yang Lu, but Tan Xiu was surprised. It was because this door was cast from Millennium Mysterious Iron, and its hardness was more than that of the first door. "Why is it another door?" Yang Lu frowned and looked at the third door blocking the way. A helpless look was revealed in his eyes. When he wanted to reach out to touch the door, Tan Xiu directly stopped him. "Don't touch this door." "Why?" Yang Lu looked puzzled. Tan Xiu didn't explain. His eyes shone brightly as he looked at the array patterns on the door. In just a few seconds, he was surprised to find that there were 3 kinds of arrays engraved on the door. One of them was a spirit-gathering array, another was an offensive array, and the last one was a defensive array. The 3 arrays complemented each other and combined with each other, eventually forming a magical array that could gather spiritual power and defend. However, Tan Xiu, whose attainments in arrays had long reached the pinnacle, revealed a smile. His fingers constantly pinched strange seals and shot them into the array of the door in a trajectory that was invisible to the naked eye. Boom! A tremor came from the staircase space as though it was a sign of collapse. However, just as Yang Lu and the 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall looked alarmed and frightened, Tan Xiu shouted and opened his hands, causing the door in front of him to slowly open after a layer of dust fell. "The 4 of you stay here. Don't let anyone come in without my order," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice after putting down his arms. "Understood." The 4 immediately answered. Tan Xiu strode into the door and saw an empty hall in front of him. Apart from the hundreds of egg-sized luminous pearls inlaid on the ceiling of the hall, there was only a rectangular staircase in the middle. To Tan Xiu's surprise, the spiritual qi concentration in this space was extremely high, at least dozens of times higher than the spiritual qi concentration outside. Just a gentle breath could make people feel the sweat pores all over their body open, making them feel comfortable all over. "It feels so comfortable to be here," Yang Lu, who was closely following behind Tan Xiu, said as he looked around. Tan Xiu strode to the rectangular staircase in the middle. The staircase was 1 meter high, 1 meter wide, and 2 meters long, and was covered with a layer of yellow silk cloth. However, with his keen eyesight, Tan Xiu could tell at a glance that this layer of yellow silk cloth was unusual. It was as though flowing water was flowing on the silk cloth. The luster was invisible to the naked eye, but it could be clearly observed with spiritual sense. In Tan Xiu's view, this silk cloth was at least made into a magic tool. Yang Lu, stand on it. Tan Xiu retracted his gaze as he looked at Yang Lu, and said in a deep voice. Yang Lu stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression. Stand on this platform? What for? Tan Xiu lightly said, I'll be cannon fodder. I need to figure out what the mystery is on it. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snappily said, I say, Tan Xiu, are you kidding me? What mystery can this broken platform have? After saying that with a disdainful expression, he stepped onto the platform. Buzz! A mysterious aura came out from the silk cloth, and the ripples that were originally invisible to the naked eye also rippled out layer by layer. With the eruption of a dazzling white light, Yang Li's figure directly disappeared from the platform. Tan Xiu's complexion changed. A firm look appeared on his face as he then stepped onto the platform, and suddenly disappeared in the dazzling white light. The next moment he appeared in an empty space. This space was very dark, and it was very difficult for ordinary people to see things a few meters away from them. However, Tan Xiu's eyesight was extremely amazing, and he could clearly see the scene within 100 meters. Where is this? What the hell happened? Yang Lu raised his hand and grabbed around. Then he turned to look at Tan Xiu, who appeared out of thin air in front of him. What made him collapse the most was that he could barely see Tan Xiu's face, as well as the place a few meters behind Tan Xiu. I don't know. Tan Xiu replied. His eyes glanced around. It was dark here, and all around was a desolate black land. The most important thing was that there was no trace of spiritual qi here, only a weak airflow that made breathing difficult. Yang Li's complexion changed. He quickly grabbed the backpack he was carrying and took out a night vision goggles from it. After putting them on, he looked into the distance. A few seconds later, his mouth opened wide, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. With a surprised expression, Tan Xiu looked at Yang Lu, and then quickly took off the man's night vision goggles. After putting them on, his pupils suddenly contracted and his heartbeat sped up a few beats out of the blue. He could clearly see the vague outline of a mountain a kilometer away. There was a layer of red halo on the mountain-shaped corridor, as though the whole mountain was burning. Behind him, there was a sword-shaped object that pierced through the clouds. Tang. Brother Tan Xiu, did we bump into ghosts? Why do I feel that this place is so gloomy? Even breathing is a bit difficult. Yang Li's lips trembled a few times. He gulped down his saliva with a frightened face and asked in a trembling voice. We didn't bump into any ghosts. We were teleported to a magical place by the teleportation array. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. It's very interesting. If my guess is correct, this place is the real burial place of the ancient tomb. Teleportation array? Ancient tomb? Yang Lu was confused and murmured in a low voice after a confused look appeared in his eyes. Third watch, I beg for the monthly vote. Chapter 525. Tan Xiu didn't explain it to Yang Lu, because he knew that even if he wasted his breath to explain, it would be very difficult for Yang Lu to understand it. It would be very difficult for him to accept it for a while. Staring at the mountain corridor, Tan Xiu silently pondered for a moment. Then he reached out to grab Yang Li's arm, and sprinted toward that direction at lightning speed. I cough, slow down. Yang Lu, who was being carried by Tan Xiu, felt the whistling sound of the wind blowing past his ears. His heart was in his throat. At this moment, Tan Xiu's speed made him reveal an expression as if he had seen a ghost. He never dreamed that someone could run at such an incredible speed. Tan Xiu directly ignored Yang Li's panicked expression. The distance seemed to be only about a kilometer, but it took him more than half an hour to reach it. His toes touched the ground as he sprinted for hundreds of kilometers before he finally arrived in front of the burning mountain. The blazing temperature made Yang Lu sweat profusely. If he wasn't grabbed by Tan Xiu, he would have turned around and fled. Stand here and wait. Tan Xiu put down Yang Lu and locked his eyes on the straight ice crystal between the mountains. The ice crystal was like a dividing line that cut the whole burning mountain into two halves. The width was very narrow, about 5 meters or so. As the distance got closer, one could see that the ice crystal was actually an ice ladder that exuded a chill. It was extremely steep and dangerous. Tan Xiu, come back quickly. Don't court death. Yang Lu was aghast as he watched Tan Xiu appear under the ice ladder. A worried look flashed in his eyes. After rushing forward for 7 or 8 steps, the intense temperature made him unable to bear it, and forced him to stop and retreat for tens of meters. As a member of the occult sect, Yang Lu naturally knew that some things that went against the common sense of science actually existed in this world. But he never thought that there would be such a magical thing in this world. Since he came to this space, everything he saw made him feel that it was a fantasy. Also, Tan Xiu's performance, his miraculous methods, and his lightning-fast speed had shocked him to the point where it was difficult for him to recover. In particular, Tan Xiu seemed to have guessed that he would be teleported out if he stood on the platform covered with silk. Therefore, Yang Lu was now very curious about who Tan Xiu was. What kind of mysterious identity did he have? Suddenly, Yang Li's complexion abruptly changed, and his eyes widened so much that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Because Tan Xiu had thrown the night vision goggles to him when he left, he could clearly see that Tan Xiu was climbing up the ice crystal-like stairs in the middle of the burning mountain, at an extremely fast speed. Could it be that the high temperature has no effect on him? Also, isn't he afraid of slipping and falling to his death? At this moment, Tan Xiu had no idea that Yang Lu was lost in his thoughts. He was moving very fast, stepping on the ice with the tips of his toes, and climbing up. His body was constantly covered by a thin layer of ice, and then it melted at an extremely fast speed. The alternating cold and hot made him feel indescribably uncomfortable at the moment. Time flew by. Yang Lu, who was standing far away, could not bear the heat anymore and retreated far away. And Tan Xiu, who was constantly climbing, was already close to the top. The higher he climbed, the faster the alternating heat and coldness changed, and the more intense the feeling became. There was even a kind of invisible pressure that came with it. Even his bones were creaking from the pressure, and his internal organs felt like they were being squeezed into a ball. Go. The star power in Tan Xiu's body had been surging, running through his meridians. Just when he was about to reach his limit, he suddenly felt that his body was light, and he had already sprinted to the top of the mountain. With the help of the inertia, he even sprinted up dozens of meters. Bang! Tan Xiu landed on the ice on the top of the mountain. When he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he couldn't help but gasp, even though he was once a supreme in the deity realm. The Yin-Yang Lake. How can there be a Yin-Yang Lake on Earth? According to countless ancient books in the deity realm, the Yin-Yang Lake is the lake that the supreme in the deity realm can bathe in when he becomes a true god. When the deity takes a bath, his body will transform from an immortal body to a divine body. In Tan Xiu's sight, the gray matter had disappeared. The real world was under the blue sky. Overlooking the wide center of the mountain, there was a big lake with a black and white yin and yang pattern. The lake was surrounded by mist, and a thick special energy was surging, like boiling water. Congratulations, the one who came later. At the center of the Yin-Yang Lake, the colorful mist solidified into a human-shaped old man. His face couldn't be seen clearly, and he was covered in the light, even if he wasn't wearing any clothes. But his voice was loud and clear, and every note seemed to knock on Tan Xiu's heart. Who are you? Tan Xiu's expression became especially cautious, his eyes staring at the old man and asking in a deep voice. The old man smiled. Don't be afraid, the one who came later. I am the deity realm's unfettered deity, but the deity realm blocked my path. I had no choice but to burn my epic fate wheel, and use the Yin-Yang Lake Sun Lake divinity vein to break through the deity realm's barrier, and come to the ancestral star. But the ancestral star has changed greatly, and is no longer as magnificent as it used to be. With no other choice, I used my remnant soul to condense a puppet artifact spirit to guard the Yin-Yang Lake's Sun Lake divinity vein forever. Tan Xiu asked in a deep voice. I know about the Yin-Yang Lake. Immortals must bathe in the lake to obtain a divine body when they ascend to the deity realm. But what does the Sun Lake divinity vein mean? The old man was surprised. Thou know about the Yin-Yang Lake? That shouldn't be the case. Back then, because there are no more immortals on the ancestral star, no one with profound cultivation. How do thou know about the Yin-Yang Lake? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said seriously, I was once a sovereign in the deity realm, but I returned to Earth by accident. The old man was enlightened and said with a smile, Interesting. Thou art very interesting. Thou dost tell me the truth because thou understand that it is easy for me to search thy soul. It seems that my inheritance should not be lost. As soon as he said that, Tan Xiu's body was grabbed by a pair of invisible hands and directly smashed into the Yin-Yang Lake. As the black and white lake water boiled and rotated, Tan Xiu was directly sucked into the lake. Arg! The heart-wrenching pain and the taste of living a life worse than death filled Tan Xiu with despair. He had endured countless pains in the past, and his mind had become extremely tough. But at this time he still had the desire to die immediately. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis? The humanoid old man suddenly let out a soft cry of surprise. His blurry face also became clear. It was a lean face with a complicated mixture of handsomeness and age. It made one's teeth ache. Swoosh! Tan Xiu was lifted and hung in the air above the Yin-Yang Lake. Descendant, what is thy relationship with ancestor Mo Luo? Tan Xiu gasped for breath. The feeling of surviving a disaster filled his heart with happiness. But at this time, his entire fate was controlled by the old man. He did not dare not answer. I don't know who ancestor Mo Luo is. The old man pondered for a moment, and revealed a trace of regret. He shook his head and sighed. Pity, what a pity. Ancestor Mo Luo is the creator of the demon realm, the ancestor of all demons, a very talented little guy. But it is a pity that thy cultivation is too shallow. Thy comprehension of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis is simply pitiful. Never mind. At the moment when I am about to disappear for eternity, we meet again. I will give thee a good fortune. Multicolored light curled up and wrapped around Tan Xiu's body like ribbons. The old man's figure became blurry again. Thousands of strands of light spread from his body to Tan Xiu and drilled into Tan Xiu's body. At this time, from Tan Xiu's body, bursts of teeth-aching cracking sounds erupted, and his cultivation realm, like pulling a seedling to help it grow, was constantly breaking through. Meridian transformation, marrow transformation, viscera transformation, all the way to the peak of viscera transformation before stopping, because his foundation was too poor. Even if he pulled a seedling to help it grow, if he wanted to improve further, his body would not be able to bear it. Now, if someone could see through Tan Xiu's body, the Jing of Changes would see that Tan Xiu's body was like a sparkling and translucent crystal. The strength of his entire body had increased by more than 100 times. Buzz! The old man waved his arms, and the Yin-Yang divinity lake below was directly sucked up by him. After slapping out several seals, the Yin-Yang divinity lake rapidly shrunk, and finally turned into a cluster of light the size of a firefly. He slapped it into Tan Xiu's body. Descendant, my inheritance is in the Yin-Yang divinity lake. I will also give the Yin-Yang divinity lake to thee. Thy only wish is to walk my path of freedom. As his voice faded, the humanoid old man turned into specks of light, and gradually disappeared between heaven and earth. After a long time, only then did Tan Xiu sober up from that mysterious feeling. But he still deeply remembered the humanoid old man's words before he dissipated, especially those words. Walk on my free and unfettered path. Tan Xiu's body had fallen to the bottom of the Yin-Yang divinity lake, and he remained in a half-kneeling position for a long time. Finally, when Tan Xiu slowly raised his head and looked up at the blue sky, he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. The great opportunity exceeded the sum of all the opportunities that Tan Xiu had gained in the immortal world in the past 10,000 years. He clearly saw the firefly-sized light in his dantian, and when he probed it with his divine sense, he could see the Yin-Yang divinity lake in the space inside. His body was constantly nourished and strengthened by the Yin and Yang liquid of the Yin-Yang divinity lake, as well as the glow that enveloped it. After half a day, His cultivation had already shown signs of a breakthrough. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's laughter came to an abrupt stop, and his smile directly froze on his face, because the black hole in his dantian suddenly emitted a crazy pulling force, directly swallowing the yin-yang divinity lake. Fuck. After a long time, Tan Xiu burst out with an angry roar. Sorry, I've been stuck in a bottleneck recently, and my writing has been very difficult. I originally wanted to update it at 7 o'clock this morning, but I was very dissatisfied with it and deleted more than 16,000 words. It was a draft that was rushed out at the last minute, so the update was a little late. Chapter 526. Gotcha. Along with Tan Xiu's furious roar, the entire space between heaven and earth seemed to crack, and the sound of eggshells breaking was clearly transmitted to his ears. What's going on? Tan Xiu's complexion greatly changed. When a message appeared in his mind, he suddenly felt like weeping but had no tears. It was the message left to him by the humanoid old man. After the humanoid old man dissipated, this space would collapse. As long as he pulled out the divine sword inserted in the distance, he would be transmitted out. In the distance, Yang Lu was tongue-tied as he looked at the surrounding scene. The sudden appearance of the spatial crack made a deep fear rise in his heart. Even though he didn't understand the existence of Taoist, immortal cultivation and soul cultivation, the fragmentation of the spatial still made him despair. Tan Xiu, where's Tan Xiu? Yang Lu muttered in a trembling voice as he ran toward the mountain. What's going on? Wasn't that mountain burning? Where did that ice ladder go? Why did I see that mountain collapse? When Yang Lu saw the mountain in the distance, his mouth opened wide again, and he was completely dumbfounded. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast from the distance. Yang Lu only felt a pair of big hands grabbing his shoulders. He suddenly felt as though he was riding the clouds and flying in the air. Tan Xiu? Yang Lu raised his hand and rubbed his eyes. After he was sure that he wasn't seeing things, he involuntarily exclaimed. Shut up, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. I know you have a lot of questions in your heart, but now is not the time to tell you. I'll try my best to tell you anything you want to know after we leave this place. All right. Yang Lu nodded repeatedly. With Tan Xiu taking him to fly, the fear in his heart subsided a lot. When Tan Xiu's feet touched the ground, he directly let go of Yang Li's body. His feet soared into the air and dashed toward the towering giant sword. A sword technique appeared in his mind out of nowhere. Tan Xiu chanted in his mind, and both of his hands struck out a series of palm prints. Bang! The gray rock on the surface of the longsword exploded, and a huge sword tens of thousands of feet tall appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Moreover, the huge sword was shrinking at an extremely fast speed. In just a dozen or so seconds, it had already become the length of an ordinary longsword. Then it circled around Tan Xiu a few times, and with a buzzing sound, it drilled into Tan Xiu's body. It's in my palm. Tan Xiu controlled it with his mind, and the long sword appeared directly in his right palm. It was as if a pattern was imprinted on his palm. Soon Tan Xiu returned to Yang Li's side. After reaching out to grab him, the long sword appeared out of thin air. With a forceful slash, a spatial rift was torn open. As for Tan Xiu, he grabbed Yang Lu and directly entered the spatial crack. In the next moment, he and Yang Lu had already appeared in the space of the cave they had arrived at previously, on the platform covered with silk cloth. Let's go. This place is about to collapse. Tan Xiu grabbed Yang Lu and rushed up the stairs like a bolt of lightning. When he rushed to the third door suddenly slammed shut. At this moment, the long sword in Tan Xiu's hand once again appeared out of thin air. With a fierce slash, the two doors made of special materials were cut off like tofu, and then Tan Xiu stored them into his interspatial ring. The third door. Tan Xiu used the same method, and after storing everything into his interspatial ring, he quickly rushed to the surface. I'm finally out. Tan Xiu recalled the encounter he had inside, and his heart was still beating crazily. Although the yin-yang spirit who had been swallowed up by the black hole, his cultivation had actually benefited greatly. He had thought that if he wanted to break through to the peak of the viscera transformation realm, it would take him at least 8 to 10 years, but he had never expected that such a great opportunity would allow him to achieve it so easily. However, he was well aware that this kind of undue haste had its advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage was that he still couldn't control his own power. He must settle down and slowly familiarize himself with it, and then use it slowly. Only then would he be able to truly reach the peak of the Viscera transformation realm. I'm out. Young Lu felt like he had just survived a disaster. Looking at the sunny weather outside and the messy construction site outside, the feeling of breathing smoother made his eyes brim with tears. Suddenly he turned to look at Tan Xiao. His eyes stared at Tan Xiao and shouted, Tell me what the hell is going on?" Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 4 figures flashed out of the ancient tomb's entrance and appeared in front of Tan Xiao in the blink of an eye. "Boss." The 4 respectfully called out. Tan Xiao nodded and said with a smile, "Go to the Long's dining hall and book a private box first. Wait for me there. I'll catch up later." "Understood." The 4 nodded and quickly left. Yang Lu rubbed his eyes again. He found that the time the 4 big men came out was too short, and their speed just now was also extremely fast. "Tan Xiao, who are you people?" Tan Xiao said with a smile. "You've learned a lot by following me today, haven't you?" "Actually, I can tell you, but not now. I told you that you don't have the qualifications to make me tell you something." Yang Lu angrily said. "I followed you into the ancient tomb, yet I didn't get any benefits and almost died inside. Is this your answer to me?" Tan Xiao nodded and said, "That's right. This is my answer to you. In any case, I gave you a fortune. If you can fulfill my request, I won't take you as my disciple. I'll treat you as a friend and give you that fortune." Yang Lu fell into silence. He stared at Tan Xiao for a long time and then asked, "The fortune you said, does it mean that you can understand everything inside the ancient tomb and that special space?" "That's right." Tan Xiao directly nodded. Yang Lu suddenly smiled. His smile was very bright and crazy, because he felt that he had seen a window from Tan Xiao. It was a new world full of wonders and magnificence that he had never experienced before. He had decided, later, he would be Tan Xiao's dogskin plaster. Even if he had to pay any price, he must open the window to appreciate the mysterious and colorful life in that world. "Tan Xiao, I want some benefits." Yang Lu stretched out his hand and restored his playful and cheeky appearance. Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and said, "You can have some benefits, but it's a big meal. Consider it as a reward for helping me open 2 portals. Don't push your luck, else I'll cancel your fortune." Yang Lu raised his head and asked, 5 billion, right? Tang Xiao understood what he was asking, so he nodded and said, "Yeah, it's 5 billion. Of course, if you're willing to give me 10 billion, I'll gladly accept it." Yang Lu rolled his eyes and strode outside. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and caught up with him in a few steps. He gave an order to the security guards and strode outside. Although the space below had collapsed, the buildings above had collapsed, so Tan Xiao wasn't worried that it would cause casualties. However, he still ordered the security guards to stay away, and told them not to let anyone near the collapsed area. More than an hour later, Tan Xiao and Yang Lu appeared at the entrance of Star City's Long's dining hall. Since the security guards outside had been replaced, he had to take out his membership card to get the qualification to enter. Inside the presidential suite, Long Jingyu had arrived ahead of time after receiving a call from Tan Xiao. At this time, his face was full of exhaustion and deep exhaustion. If it weren't for the fact that he had too many things to deal with, he would have fallen asleep at any time. "How's the pacification work going?" After Tan Xiao motioned Long Jingyu to sit on the sofa, he asked. "Everything that can be done has been done, but the aftermath can't be dealt with in a short time," said Long Jingyu bitterly. "This accident is too big, and there are a lot of casualties among the workers." Tan Xiao sighed. "None of us wanted such a thing to happen." Sighing, Tan Xiao said, "But for the families of the dead and injured workers, you must do your job well. It's okay to spend more money, for this is related to their future life and the reputation of the Long Group." "I understand. Don't worry." Long Jingyu heavily nodded. Upon hearing this, Tan Xiao didn't talk about this issue anymore. He reached out to pinch Long Jingyu's shoulder and began to massage him. His action made Long Jingyu stare blankly for a moment. Then his heart warmed up, and the tiredness and drowsiness subsided a lot. Tan Xiu's technique was very peculiar. Along with his massage, Long Jingyu's spirit, which had just been roused, slowly relaxed again. As Tan Xiu's fingers moved, he began to massage Long Jingyu's head. As he pressed Long Jingyu's temples, Long Jingyu slowly fell asleep. Take him to the next room. Let him sleep for 3 hours. Wake him up after 3 hours, said Tan Xiu to his 4 subordinates who came in advance. Understood. The 4 experts of the everlasting feast hall complied, and took Long Jingyu away. With a strange expression, Yang Lu looked at Tan Xiu and said, Tan Xiu, I found that you're very good to him. It's like you're treating him like a family member. We're friends, said Tan Xiu lightly. Yang Lu was stunned. Friends? He used to think that his senior brothers were the closest people to him. But after his master passed away, only then did he see the true colors of his senior brothers. Therefore he hardened his heart and cut off any contact with them. Furthermore, he had been alone all these years. Apart from looking for women all day long, he didn't have any friends. Suddenly, he was very envious of Long Jingyu. Looking at Yang Li's complicated expression, Tan Xiu lightly said, If you're willing to pour your heart and lungs out, maybe we can become friends in the future. After being silent for a long while, Yang Li seriously said, I promise I won't steal your things in the future. Cough, cough. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh upon hearing Yang Li's words. He wanted to be friends with him, but he wouldn't steal his things? This guy was really a fighter among the prodigies. If you dare steal my things, I'll break your 3rd leg. Tan Xiu jokingly replied. However, it was this sentence that made Yang Lu shrink his head. Chapter 527. The Long's dining hall's dishes were delicious, yet the price was so expensive that it made one's heart tremble. Despite the fact that Tan Xiu had a lot of wealth, he was still a bit upset when he paid the bill. If he didn't know that Long's dining hall was Jingyu's favorite, he really wouldn't want to come here to burn money. At noon, Long Jingyu sleepily walked out of his bedroom and saw Tan Xiu sitting on the sofa, quietly reading a book. His spirit immediately turned better as he said with a smile, Thanks, Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, Let's not be polite. The body is the capital of revolution. As long as you have a good rest, you will have the spirit to do more things. Contact Kong Xia today, and ask her to give you some of our company's healthcare products. After taking them for a while, your physical fitness will be improved. Long Jingyu's eyes lit up as he asked, The magnificent Tang Corporation's healthcare products have finally been produced. When will they be put into the market? It should be on the 1st of next month, said Tan Xiu. Long Jingyu clapped his hands and said with a smile, My younger brother has been thinking about the news of the healthcare products being put into the market all day long. He seems to have a project in Shanghai recently, and I heard that it needs a lot of money. But I'm sure you're also aware of the Long family's recent situation. The Walled Hill Village project, the New City project, as well as the overseas 9 Dragons Island project, have nearly used all of the Long family's reserve funds. That brat is so short of money that he's going crazy. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he lightly said, If you're willing to listen to me, don't help him with a penny. An uncut jade would not be useful. He had been used to having a smooth life since he was young, so he had to experience some hardships. In fact, if he were my younger brother, I would have directly let him live and let him not get a penny from the family for a certain period of time. It's best to let him taste the feeling of a hero stumped by a penny. Are you sure you'll do that, Tan Xiu? Asked Long Jingyu with a strange expression. Not only will I do that, but I'll also deliberately set up a stumbling block for him if the opportunity permits. I'll deliberately trap him and deceive him. It's best if I can swindle all the hard-earned money he's been working so hard for. After tasting the feeling of not being able to go to heaven and down to earth, he knows that life is hard, and that it's not easy to earn money. Only then will he be able to cherish life and quickly mature. Long Jingyu asked, Aren't you afraid that he'll hate you in the future? If I'm willing to give him all my wealth, the entire inheritance of my family, And even the position of the patriarch. Will he still hate me if I give him everything I have? Said Tang Xiu lightly. Long Zhengyu was silent. He suddenly understood Tan Xiu's thoughts. At this moment, he felt a tinge of regret. He regretted that Tan Xiu was not his blood-related brother. Ring ring ring, his phone rang. Tan Xiu grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. His brows suddenly furrowed. The mobile phone number was Sijinin's name. He also asked Wang Daoyuan for this phone number when he was in the capital. However, he didn't expect that Sijinin would call him. What's the matter? Tan Xiu asked straightforwardly after the call was connected. There was a moment of silence on the other side of the phone. Then she slowly asked, "You seem to know that I called you?" Tan Xiu said, "Yes, I know. I asked Wang Daoyuan for your phone number." "Why?" "No reason. I just want to know whether you're dead or alive, and what you can do for Grandma in the future." Sijinin fell into silence again. She didn't speak, and Tan Xiu wasn't in a hurry. The two kept talking on the phone. After 5 or 6 minutes of silence, Sijinin said with a special emotion, "Can you help my dad?" "How can I help him?" asked Tan Xiu. "I know that you have the ability to get him out of prison early," said Sijinin. "I do have the ability to get him out of prison early, but I won't do it now," said Tan Xiu lightly. "Some people must pay the price for what they have done. 2 years. This is the bottom line in my heart. I won't be able to vent my hatred if he doesn't stay in prison for 2 years. Of course, if he has the ability to get out of prison early, I won't bother with him anymore." "Tan Xiu, what's the difference between you and my dad?" Sijinin angrily shouted. "I don't know what the difference is, but I know that anyone who bullies my mom in this world will have to pay a painful price," said Tan Xiu indifferently. Sijinin was silent again. After a long while, she bitterly said, "I'm going to get married. I want my parents to appear at my wedding." "You want to get married?" Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and coldly snorted. "If you dare to get married, I have a way to ruin your so-called husband's reputation and make him have a miserable life no matter who you marry. If I'm in a bad mood one day, maybe your so-called husband will make you a widow early, just like the man who was suddenly killed by your mom. Also, I want to make it clear again that I'm not afraid of you marrying someone else. I have enough connections and money to play with you." You bastard!" roared Sijinin furiously. "I'm indeed a bastard," sneered Tan Xiu. "But why did I become a bastard? I'm sure your family knows my character the best, right?" Clap. Sijinin directly hung up the phone. Tan Xiu seemed to have expected that she would hang up the phone. He dialed again, but Sijinin directly hung up again. Tan Xiu didn't stop even after repeatedly hanging up more than a dozen times. Sijinin finally picked up, but she didn't speak. "You can hate me," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "But I hope you have time to think about what you've done in the past. That framing and calling the police. If I hadn't changed, I might have been the one in prison now. And among your family, who would have thought of a way to get me out of there? I've said everything I need to say. But I'll give you one last piece of advice. Your family is not only your parents. You're already so old, so you should be more familiar with each other." After saying that, Tan Xiu didn't give Sijinin time to speak and directly hung up the phone. At the side, seeing Tan Xiu hang up the phone, Yonglu raised his thumbs up and praised. "Brother Tan Xiu, you've got a really good character. You're a real man, taking revenge and complaining. You're a real man, and you can't be soft-hearted to those who want to harm you." Long Zhengyu glanced at Yonglu with a strange expression and lightly said, "Brother Yonglu, right? I do like Tan Xiu's character, but I don't like yours. You'd better shut up before you figure out the truth of the matter." Yonglu was furious upon hearing it. He coldly snorted and said, "Even Tan Xiu didn't say anything to me. What qualifications do you have to say that? Did I say anything wrong?" Long Jingyu glanced at Tan Xiu. Then he deeply looked at Yonglu and said, "If the man in prison is Tan Xiu's uncle and the one who called Tan Xiu is his cousin, then I want to ask you something. What qualifications do you have to comment on their family's affairs?" "What?" Yonglu was dumbfounded. He looked at Tan Xiu's indifferent expression. His lips squirmed a few times, but he ultimately didn't speak a word. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He looked at Long Zhengyu and said, I'm studying in Shanghai, and I can only go back to Star City in the future except for holidays. Help me deal with the prison and don't let him suffer too much inside. Long Zhengyu nodded and said, Don't worry. I know what to do. Tan Xiao nodded and said, Remember to learn more about his performance inside. If his performance is good, find a way to get him out at the end of the year. Spend as much money and use as many connections as you want. Long Zhengyu sighed and said, Those who don't know you may think that you have a heart of stone if they know about your affairs. But those who know you are aware that you're actually very soft inside despite looking cold and ruthless on the surface. Don't worry. My Long family still has the ability to do so. Tan Xiao nodded and said, I have some other things to deal with. This brat will stay here with you, and you have to entertain him well. Long Zhengyu glanced at Yang Lu and then said, Let him stay here. I still have a lot of things to do. Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, Zhengyu, I told you to entertain him well because I want you to find him a few girls who are willing to accompany him. I advise you not to offend this brat. Although some of his means are shameful, but if you provoke him, I'm afraid your Long family will be in big trouble. What do you mean? Long Zhengyu furrowed his brows and asked with a puzzled expression. Tan Xiao shook his hands and said, This guy is a thief, an ancestor-level thief. Do you want to see countless things stolen from your Long family one day? Do you want your Long family to have a lot of shameful things stolen? Long Zhengyu was tongue-tied as he looked at Yang Li's proud expression. His expression changed several times before he finally forced a smile and said, I know what to do. Yang Lu raised his thumbs up and praised. Brother Long, a wise man submits to circumstances. I'm really happy for you that you can understand. However, since you're Tan Xiao's brother, I won't covet your family's things. I'd better rely on my own ability to go out and seek pleasure. Long Zhengyu could only force a wry smile inwardly, but he could only put on an obsequious smile on his face. He knew Tan Xiao's ability. Someone who could be praised as an ancestor-level thief by Tan Xiao was probably a godly thief. He naturally didn't want to provoke such a person. Soon, Tan Xiao left the Long's dining hall. Although he had eaten breakfast here, it was now time for lunch. He called Kong Xia and arranged to meet at his family's restaurant. Then he drove straight there. This time he came back in a hurry, but he had plenty of time. After all, he had asked for leave from Han Qinggu. Even if he didn't go for a few days, she wouldn't be able to say anything. Ugh, is this my family's restaurant? Standing at the entrance of his family's restaurant, Tan Xiao looked up at the spacious entrance, as well as the 4 welcoming ladies in Cheongsam outside the entrance. Welcome. Today the 3rd chapter is presented. The last day of the double monthly votes. Please guarantee the monthly votes. Chapter 528. The reconstructed 4-story restaurant had a very imposing entrance with a total of 8 storefronts on both sides. Apart from the storefronts, the interior was occupied by the restaurant. The most important thing was that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors were all built into luxury boxes. Soaring Dragon Pavilion. The previous name of the restaurant had been changed. The current imposing name was something that Tan Xiao had heard his parents talking about when he returned to Star City last time. After entering the restaurant's lobby, the cashier at the cashier counter was no longer someone Tan Xiao was familiar with. However, when he saw a woman wearing headphones called Sun Yu coming down the stairs, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Sun Yu used to be the cashier of the restaurant, a diligent and honest woman. Big sis Sun. Tan Xiao called out with a smile. Upon seeing Tan Xiao, Sun Yu immediately looked pleasantly surprised and said with a smile, Little boss, how come you're back? It seems like this is your first time coming here since our restaurant reopened half a month ago, no? I went back to Star City to handle some things, so I came here to take a look. Tan Xiao nodded. I thought I came to the wrong place when I was outside just now. How come this place has changed? Our restaurant's business is too good, said Sun Yu with a smile. Many guests who want to dine here have to book a few days in advance. Therefore, the boss thought that we should buy all the original houses and then rebuild them. Your father is very capable. He spent a lot of money and worked day and night. Finally, After a lot of time, the new restaurant was built. He even changed the name of our restaurant. Is Mom here? Tanshio felt relieved and smilingly said. The boss is in his office on the 4th floor. Do you want me to take you there? Tanshio shook his head and smilingly said, forget it. I'll go there myself. At this moment, a middle-aged woman in work clothes came in, followed by several staff members in blue work clothes carrying boxes of wine. The handwriting on their chests indicated that they were all employees of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Manager's son, the god's nectar has been delivered. There are 200 boxes in total. You're responsible for receiving it, said the middle-aged woman with a smile. Sun Yu nodded and said with a smile, you've worked hard. The middle-aged woman said, Manager's son, today is the day our magnificent Tang Corp will distribute the goods to all parts of the country. The workers are loading the containers, so there are only a few of them here. Do you think you can get your staff to help? Help me move it in from the car. Sun Yu said, I'll arrange for someone to move it immediately. The middle-aged woman nodded and glanced at Tanshio saying, is he also a staff member here? Hurry up and move the wine. Remember to be careful. Our magnificent Tang Corp's god's nectar is very expensive. You can't afford to pay for it if you break it. Tanshio was stunned, and Sun Yu was also stunned. Immediately, Sun Yu woke up from her daze and was about to explain when Tanshio waved his hand at her, and then rolled up his sleeves with a smile. Okay, I'll move it now. The middle-aged woman nodded her head and turned to walk outside. Little. Sun Yu hurriedly called out, but her words were interrupted by Tanshio. It's all right. It's our family's business. I just happened to come across it, so it's fine to help move it. Just do your thing. I'll go find my mom later, said Tanshio with a smile and walked outside. In the open space outside the restaurant, 4 medium-sized container cars with their doors opened and 4 drivers were waiting. Tanshio casually walked to the back door of one of the cars and moved 2 boxes of god's nectar from it. Hey, aren't you a little too bold? Moving 2 boxes at once, who will be responsible if they fall? Put it down. Move 1 box at a time. The middle-aged woman angrily shouted. Tanshio didn't put it down, but said with a smile, it's all right. I'm strong enough to move 2 boxes at once. The middle-aged woman strode to block Tanshio's path and angrily shouted, nonsense. Even if you're a Hercules, you still have to move 1 box at a time. Do you know that there are 6 bottles of god's nectar in this box? You should have heard of god's nectar, right? The price of 1 bottle is 18,888. How much are 6 bottles? How much are 2 boxes of 12 bottles? If you fall, you won't be able to pay for it with a year's salary, right? Put it down quickly and move 1 box at a time. Tanshio opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. However, he appreciated the middle-aged woman's working attitude. After all, she was so serious and responsible. She was afraid of breaking the god's nectar, which was worthy of his appreciation. However, her attitude when communicating with others was, what you? The middle-aged woman angrily said. Just do what I say. Tanshio forced a smile and said, I can really move 2 boxes at once. Let alone 2, I can even move 4 boxes at once. How about this? If I really fall, I'll pay for it, okay? The middle-aged woman angrily shouted. Did I not calculate it clearly with you just now? Or is your self-confidence inflated too much? You want to pay? Do you think you're a second-generation rich kid? Tanshio looked at the work card worn on the middle-aged woman's chest and frowned. You're called Shinmeian, aren't you? The supervisor of the magnificent Tang Corporation should be the supervisor of a warehouse, right? You're right, said Shinmeian proudly. I'm really satisfied with your responsible attitude towards work. Tanshio shook his head. But your attitude when communicating with others is very hard for me to accept. The magnificent Tang Corporation staff training should teach you, as the management staff, to communicate with others with the best attitude, right? Shinmeian was stunned. She didn't expect that a small restaurant employee would dare to educate her. Although she now realized that there was a problem with her attitude, it was hard for her to accept being criticized to her face. Because of this, her expression became much more angry, and she scolded. What does my attitude have to do with you? It's you who didn't listen to my advice and insisted on moving 2 boxes of God's nectar, so I forget it. Who the hell do you think you are? Do I need to explain it to you? Tan Xiu shook his head and moved the 2 boxes of God's nectar, ready to bypass Shen Meiyin. But just as he took a step forward, he was stopped by Shen Meiyin. I say, young man, what's the matter with you? Don't tell me you don't understand human language? I told you move 1 box or don't move at all. Do you really think you're a second-generation rich kid and have nowhere to spend your money? Shen Meiyin angrily retorted. I'm a second-generation rich kid, said Tan Xiu with a frown. Shen Meiyin rolled her eyes and contemptuously said, if you're a second-generation rich kid, then I'm a first-generation rich kid. You're so young, yet you're so impractical. You really can't carve a rotten wood. If you were a second-generation rich kid, would you still need to work in the Soaring Dragon Pavilion? While speaking, Sun Yu came out with several porters with a pen and paper. Upon seeing Tan Xiu and Shen Meiyin's posture, she came over and asked with a confused expression, Little boss, what are you doing? Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, I told her to move 2 boxes, but she insisted that I move only 1 box. Now she's stopping me from moving it. Little boss? Shen Meiyin stared blankly. She looked at Sun Yu and asked, Manager Sun Yu, what did you call him? Sun Yu said, Little boss. He's our boss's son, so naturally he's the little boss of our Soaring Dragon Pavilion. Shen Meiyin's eyes were not big, but after hearing this, they were wide open, revealing a horrified expression in her eyes. After looking at Tan Xiu, her body swayed and she hurriedly said with a trembling voice, Boss. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. At this time, Shen Meiyin was frightened because she knew who opened the Soaring Dragon Pavilion. It was opened by the big boss's mother, and the big boss's mother only had 1 son. And at this moment, since this young man before her was the little boss of the Soaring Dragon Pavilion, then he was her big boss. Oh my God! What stupid thing did I just do? I actually made the big boss a porter? I actually spoke rudely to the big boss. I won't be fired by the big boss, right? Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, whether it's me or not, you shouldn't have spoken to others with that kind of attitude. Didn't Kong Xia tell you that each and every employee of the magnificent Tang Corporation represents the face of the company? Forget it. Put down your work first after you go back. Shen Meiyin's heart trembled and she hurriedly said with a trembling voice, Boss, I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Please don't fire me. I'll definitely correct myself in the future, and won't lose the face of the magnificent Tang Corporation. I won't fire you, said Tan Xiu. Go back to the staff training, and then exercise yourself again. You can return to your current position after the new year. Upon hearing it, Shen Meiyin immediately said with excitement, Thank you, boss. Thank you very much. I'll report to the training department after I go back. I'll definitely correct myself according to your instructions. Tan Xiu didn't speak again, and bypassed her to directly walk inside. With a strange expression, Sun Yu's eyes retracted from Tan Xiu's back to Shen Meiyin and curiously said, Big sis son, did you provoke the little boss? He has a very good character. He's very kind to people and doesn't put on any airs toward our employees. Manager son, why didn't you remind me just now? Shen Meiyin bitterly sighed. He's the little boss of your Soaring Dragon Pavilion, and the big boss of our magnificent Tang Corporation. I was afraid that he would drop 2 boxes of God's nectar at once, so I scolded him and told him to only move 1 box at a time. Puffed. Sun Yu gave a thumbs up and praised. You actually reprimanded your big boss? You're really awesome. Wait, what did you just say? Little boss is the big boss of your magnificent Tang Corporation? You're not joking, right? You don't know? Shen Meiyin was confused. I heard it from the director of our winery when he was drunk once. He said that the big boss of our magnificent Tang Corporation is the little boss of the Soaring Dragon Pavilion. Furthermore, our director also ordered us to be careful every time we deliver the wine. Sun Yu turned to look at the restaurant's entrance, and was struck by a storm. She finally understood why only the Soaring Dragon Pavilion could buy God's nectar from the magnificent Tang Corporation among all the hotels in the city. It turned out that it was the same company. Also, the little boss was really a good person. He had such a big identity. Yet he was still so kind and even willing to condescend to be a porter. Thank you for the one and only 1,000,000 yuan reward from the Silver Lord. This is the biggest affirmation of Quiet Night's new book after so many years. Thank you very much. Chapter 529. The 200 boxes of God's nectar were all moved into the restaurant in half an hour. Looking at the few porters who were panting and sweating profusely, Tanxiu ran to a nearby store and bought 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of water for each of them, and then politely handed them over. Thank you, little brother. The porters had never received such treatment before. With a sincere smile on their faces, they thanked Tanxiu one after another. Although the cigarettes were not good quality and were only about 20 yuan per pack, and the water was only mineral water, such small things made them feel very warm. Tanxiu smiled and said a few polite words. Then he turned to Sun Yu and said, "Remember to give 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of water to all the masters who deliver the wine." "All right, I'll do it myself." Sun Yu looked at Tanxiu with a bit more respect in her eyes. Tanxiu smiled and immediately went to the elevator. After pressing the elevator button, he looked at the lively scene in the hall. It was lunchtime now. Only a few tables in the entire hall were unoccupied, while the other 40 to 50 tables were full. Waiters in uniform were working with smiles on their faces. Such a scene. Tanxiu was very satisfied because he knew how much his mother had paid for the development of the restaurant to this point. As long as his mother was happy, he felt that everything was worth it. After coming to the 4th floor, Tanxiu found the general manager's office according to the door number. After knocking on the door, his mother's voice came from inside. Tanxiu then pushed the door and walked in. "Xiu, how come it's you?" Su Lingyun was sitting at the desk and reading some documents. She asked incredulously when she saw Tanxiu coming in. "Mom, there's a construction accident at the Long family's Walled Hill village," Tanxiu said with a smile. "Since our family's real estate is there, I rushed back from Shanghai to see the situation. I came to see you on the way." "Xiu, is the accident serious over there?" Su Lingyun quickly asked. "You said that our family's real estate is there. Will you be implicated?" Tanxiu smiled and said, "The accident over there is being dealt with, and it will be over soon. Don't worry, that's the Long family's project. It has nothing to do with me, and I won't be implicated in any way." Only then did Su Lingyun feel relieved. She smiled and said, "As long as you're fine. Xiu, if you come back like this, won't you miss your classes?" Tanxiu smiled and said, "Mom, it's not like you don't know your son's academic performance. Actually, I've already finished all the first-year courses by myself. Now, at school, besides attending classes, I spend most of my time in the school library, learning more knowledge so that I can become more capable in the future. Don't worry, I can't delay my studies." Nodding her head in satisfaction, Su Lingyun smiled and said, "I knew it. My son is the best. By the way, is this your first time coming to our newly built restaurant? How was it? Isn't it grand?" Tanxiu gave a thumbs up and praised, "Very stylish. When I came here just now, I thought I went to the wrong place. Also, the business seems to be doing well." Su Lingyun pulled Tanxiu to the sofa in the corner and smilingly said, "It's more than good. It's simply too good. Our current restaurant is more than 10 times bigger than before, but it's still full of guests every day. I heard you yelling before that you'll get cramps from counting money. But now we're earning so much money that we can't even count it anymore." "That's a good thing." Tanxiu couldn't help laughing. Su Lingyun smiled and exchanged a few words with Tanxiu. Then, she suddenly recalled something and quickly asked, "Xiu, have you had lunch since you came here at this time?" "Not yet." Tanxiu shook his head. Su Lingyun quickly got up and said, "Mom will make it for you. Just wait here." Tanxiu hurriedly stopped her and said with a smile, "Mom, just ask someone to make it and send it here. You don't have to do it yourself. I'll deal with the things here today and return to Shanghai tomorrow." Let's talk about it. All right. Shortly after, the fragrant meal was delivered. Su Lingyun accompanied Tan Xiu to finish eating. The mother and son chatted for a while before Tan Xiu left and rushed to the magnificent Tang Corporation. On the way there, he called Kong Xia and learned that she was not in the company, but in the 6th warehouse. He directly changed his route and rushed there. Boss. Kong Xia, who was wearing an engineering hat and business attire, came to greet Tan Xiu accompanied by 7 or 8 employees. Are the health products produced by our company stored in the 6th warehouse? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. That's right. Our company has stockpiled a lot of health products, and we're waiting for them to be shipped to all major cities in the country in a week. Also, we'll use the hunger marketing method according to your previous sales model. We'll distribute the products 4 times a month and once a week, but the quantity is limited. I haven't had the time to ask, but what's the name of the health products? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. Also, what's the price? Tang Xiu asked with a smile. The healthcare oral liquid is priced the same as God's nectar, 18,888 yuan per box. There are 2 bottles in each box. Not bad. Tan Xiu nodded and said with a smile. How are you doing here? When will you return to the company? We've just checked the inventory, so we can go back now, said Kong Xia. Let's go. Tan Xiu said with a smile. In the evening, Tan Xiu, Kong Xia, and Andy had dinner together. After sending them back to their residence, he then rushed to Southgate Town. On the way there, he contacted Chen Zhizhong and learned that the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical and the Everlasting Feast Hall had entered a business cooperation. The Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical would prioritize selling a lot of precious medicinal herbs to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Ring ring ring. Just as Tan Xiu's car entered the Southgate Town's gate, his mobile phone rang. After he picked it up, he said, Xiaoxue, is there something you need? Gu Xiaoxue's voice came from the phone. Boss, I just got the news that someone is negotiating the lease of Clam Island in the South China Sea. I'm sure you'll be interested in the identity of the other party. Who is it? Asked Tan Xiu. The Yao family in the imperial capital, said Gu Xiaoxue. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed as he asked in a deep voice. Are you sure it's the Yao family in the imperial capital? Who's the person in charge of leasing the island? It's definitely the Yao family, and the person in charge is Yao Xinhua, said Gu Xiaoxue. Why did the Yao family rent an island in the South China Sea? Asked Tan Xiu. I haven't found anything yet. Gu Xiaoxue shook her head. The Yao family is very low-key, especially that Yao Xinhua. He seems to have bribed some people. If my guess is correct, they will soon sign a contract with the government. Also, I've sent some people to the island to have a look. The island is very good, and I think it's very suitable for us to plant medicinal herbs. Also, there's another small island 2 or 3 kilometers away from Clam Island. It's very suitable for us to rear fierce beasts. Tan Xiu's expression moved as he said in a deep voice, I'll immediately rush to Jingmen Island. We'll talk about it when I get there. Remember, if possible, make trouble for the Yao family and delay their signing of the contract with the government. Understood. Gu Xiaoxue replied. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu called his mother, Su Lingyun, telling her that he had something to do in Shanghai and would directly return today. He then contacted Yang Lu and drove directly back to Shanghai. Tan Xiu, I can't stand it anymore. I drove all night last night and slept for 4 or 5 hours during the day. Now you're pulling me back to Shanghai in a hurry? Aren't you trying to kill me? I don't care. You drive. Yang Lu complained after sitting in the car. I'll drive. You sleep. Tan Xiu nodded. Tan Xiu, why are we in such a hurry to go back? What exactly happened? Asked Yang Lu curiously. It's just a personal matter. After returning to Shanghai, I'm going to Jingmen Island to make some simple preparations, said Tan Xiu. Why? You want to go with me? Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snorted. Humph, I don't want to go with you. You're such a swindler. Originally, we agreed that we'd divide the loot after exploring the ancient tomb. But it turns out that I went with you for nothing. I was scared half to death and didn't get any benefits. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He glanced at the depressed Yang Lu and said, Who said you didn't get any benefits? Seeing such a magical scene with me should be the biggest benefit for you, right? I don't care. Yang Lu snorted. I saw you take away those 3 doors with my own eyes. Although I don't know what method you used to make them disappear into thin air, I bet they must be with you. Share the loot with me when we return to Shanghai. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, It's reasonable to say that I should share the loot with you, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to teach you some skills as a reward for your help. However, I have a condition. Yang Li's spirit shook and he hurriedly said, What condition? Tell me. Come with me to Jingmen Island, said Tan Xiu. For what? Asked Yang Li. We're going to rent 2 islands in the South China Sea, said Tan Xiu. Yang Li stared at him and incredulously asked, You want to rent islands? Do you have nothing better to do? I'm of great use to you, Tan Xiu said lightly. You tell me whether you want to go with me or not. I need to know what you want me to do, said Yang Li. I can't explain it clearly now, said Tan Xiu. But as long as you come with me, maybe you'll be useful when the time comes. Yang Li nodded and said, All right, I'll go with you. But first, you must keep your promise and teach me that powerful skill of yours. No problem. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. Yang Li looked out of the window and said with a smile, Brother Tan Xiu, I found that you're really interesting after getting along with you for a long time. At the very least, I know another identity of yours after coming to Star City with you. In fact, I should have thought of it earlier. What identity? Asked Tan Xiu casually. The young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Am I right? Said Yang Li. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Everyone on Earth already knows about it. Yet you're so slow in realizing it. Do you want me to give you a thumbs up? Get lost. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snorted. Double monthly votes. Last day. Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 530. Tan Xiu personally drove the car all the way at high speed and arrived at Shanghai at 2 a.m. in the morning. Since he was in a hurry, Tan Xiu returned to the Blue Star Villa complex and simply cleaned up. Then he went to the study room and released the fierce beast from the array. Do you want to go out and play with me? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. However, he saw the fierce beast repeatedly nodding with an expectant look in its eyes. Tan Xiu then said with a smile, Since you want to go out and play with me, then stay in the villa tonight. I'll take you to another place tomorrow. I won't let you stay in the array for a while. Afterward, he took a shower and changed his underwear before dialing Long Jingyu's cell number. As he guessed, Long Jingyu hadn't rested at this time. His tired voice came out of the phone. Tan Xiu, it's so late, yet you haven't rested yet? I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I've returned to Shanghai, said Tan Xiu. I'll leave the matters in Star City to you. Don't work too hard. If you're too tired, just hand over the work to someone else. Long Jingyu said, Rest assured, I can handle it. Anyways, are you in trouble over there? Do you need my help? No need. I can handle it myself, said Tan Xiu. Afterward, the two exchanged a few words and then hung up the phone. Early the next morning, Tan Xiu took Yang Lu to Jin Xinkui's residence. After handing over the architectural design, he personally drew to Jin Xinkui. He hurriedly bid farewell and drove to Han Qingwu's residence. At the entrance of the complex, Han Qingwu was wearing a windbreaker and playing with her mobile phone. When the car stopped in front of her, she put away her mobile and looked at Tan Xiu complaining. It's only 6:30 a.m. now, Tan Xiu. It's only been half an hour since you called me. Even if we're going to play, you don't need to be so anxious, right? Let me clarify something. This trip to Jingmen Island is not for sightseeing. I have something important to deal with, said Tan Xiu seriously. Also, you don't have to go. Han Qingwu gave Tan Xiu a flirtatious supercilious look, and then took her suitcase to the rear of the car. After opening the trunk and putting it inside, she directly opened the door and sat in the back seat. Bam! After the door was closed, Han Qingwu glanced at Yang Lu in the front seat and said, Let's go. But don't tell me that we're driving to Jingmen Island. Tan Xiu started the car and lightly smiled. You're right. We're indeed going to Jingmen Island. It was a waste of time to book a ticket, wait at the airport, and then wait for the flight to take off. If the flight is delayed, I'll also delay. Yang Lu nodded in Yang. Looking at Yang Lu, Han Qinggu turned her head and gently nodded to him. Then she said, anyways, what are you going to Jingmen Island for exactly? You won. You. Xiao said. Yang the Tian King Xing Yang. You only have one task this time, and that is to eat, drink, and have fun. Consider it a vacation. You don't need to worry about other things. Han Qinggu pursed her lips and turned her face to look out of the window. She admired Tan Xiao very much. At such a young age, he was able to do such a big business without batting an eyelid, accomplishing what countless people couldn't achieve in their lifetime. However, she felt very uncomfortable inside. She thought that she was the teacher and Tan Xiao was just a student. She was unexpectedly surpassed by Tan Xiao by tens of thousands of miles. The distance from Shanghai to Jingmen Island was more than 1,000 kilometers. Although Tan Xiao could drive there alone, Han Qinggu and Yang Lu helped him to share the burden. The three of them took turns driving and arrived at Jingmen Island at 4 p.m. After entering the downtown area, Tan Xiao directly rushed to the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ according to the navigation. The scenery is really good. On the front seat, Han Qinggu couldn't help but sigh while looking at the scenery of the villa on both sides of the highway. Tan Xiao glanced at her and drove inside. At the gate, for experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall saw Tan Xiao and directly let him pass. Grand Master Gu Xiaoxue, who had long been waiting in the parking lot, saw Tan Xiao coming down from the driver's seat and hurriedly greeted him. A team of experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall passed by nearby. After seeing Tan Xiao, under the watchful eyes of Han Qinggu and Yang Lu, they strode to Tan Xiao's front, cupped their fists and greeted. Boss. Tan Xiao slightly nodded and said, go do your business. Understood. The team of Everlasting Feast Hall's experts respectfully replied, and turned around to walk away. What's the current situation? Tan Xiao looked at Gu Xiaoxue and asked. I've sent some people to obstruct them. The information we got at noon shows that they have just returned from Clam Island, and are now in Jingmen Island's Sandy Luo Hotel. Also, Yao Xinhua is negotiating with the senior leaders of Jingmen Island, and should be waiting for the approval documents from the government. Tan Xiao slightly nodded and pointed to Han Qinggu saying, she's Han Qinggu, a teacher at my school. Because she wanted to travel, she came with us. Send some people to settle her down, and try your best to satisfy her request. I'll arrange it properly, Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. As they talked, they came to the restaurant inside. As Han Qinggu was taken away, Tan Xiao and Yang Lu followed Gu Xiaoxue to a luxurious suite. Give me all the information you've investigated. Please wait a moment. Gu Xiaoxue made a phone call, and someone quickly sent a document. It was the information the Everlasting Feast Hall's members had investigated. Tan Xiao carefully read it before he took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. Auntie, there's something I need your help with. What is it? Tang Min's laughter came from the phone. My men in Jingmen Island have inadvertently discovered that the Yao family seems to be making a move in the South China Sea, said Tan Xiao. Yao Xinhua, who fought with me in the south last time, is preparing to rent an island in the South China Sea. He seems to be communicating with the government now. Auntie, can you help me investigate the progress of the Yao family's island rental? Are you sure you're not mistaken, Tan Xiao? Asked Tang Min in a deep voice. The Yao family is really renting an island in the South China Sea? It's the information my men have found. It's absolutely not wrong, said Tang Xiao. It seems that the Yao family's plan is about to be carried out, murmured Tang Min. What plan? Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. 2 of the top 4 security companies in the country are secretly controlled by the Yao family, said Tang Min. Our Tang family has just obtained this information not long ago. Even the people we bribed gave us the news that the Yao family is preparing to set up a new security company with fully militarized training of elite security guards. Rather than calling it a security company, it's better to call it the Yao family's most elite armed forces. Are you sure this information is reliable, Auntie? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked, "If that's the case, I think we can let them proceed smoothly. Once the Yao family organizes their most elite armed forces and expose them to our eyes, I can destroy this armed force and give the Yao family an extremely painful blow." "It's not that simple," said Tang Min with a forced smile. "Even if the Yao family wants to set up a new security company, it's to train elite armed forces. Their original armed forces won't be much. Furthermore, the Yao family has been getting restless recently. They have secretly contacted many families, saying that they want to help them train some elite talents. But how could those families possibly hand over their armed forces to the Yao family? However, those who want to cooperate with the Yao family will still send some of their people to tie themselves to the Yao family in advance. If something happens to the newly set up security company of the Yao family, I'm afraid many families will be furious." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, "Since it's not appropriate to completely destroy it, then we can only stop the Yao family's plan. It just so happens that I'm also going to rent 2 islands in the South China Sea. Since the Yao family didn't choose to deal with us, then we'll put aside our armed forces for now. We'll strive to make them lose everything and finally move the security company away." "I'll immediately send someone to investigate it," said Tang Min. "I'll inform you immediately once there's any news." "All right," Tan Xiu replied and hung up the phone. At the side, a curious look flashed in Yang Li's eyes as he asked, "Brother Tan Xiu, the Yao family you just mentioned, is it the Yao family from the imperial capital?" "Yes, it's the Yao family from the imperial capital." Tan Xiu nodded. A complicated expression flashed in Yang Li's eyes as he forced a smile and said, "You asked me to come with you this time to deal with the Yao family?" "That's right," Tan Xiu said. Yang Lu was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, "I might be able to help you if it's something else, but I'm afraid I'm powerless in this matter. Ever since I came here with you, I've found a shocking situation. The everlasting feast hall's manor is filled with experts like clouds. I can't even raise my hand in front of many of them." "I don't get it," Tan Xiu frowned and said. "There's something that I'm afraid you don't know, Brother Tan Xiu," said Yang Lu with a forced and helpless smile. "I'm a member of the thief sect of the occult doors. Although the thief sect has been torn apart, my eldest senior brother is a member of the Yao family and has quite a high position there. Although my eldest senior brother has been staying abroad all these years and rarely seen his figure, I dare say that he must be plotting something big." "What's your eldest senior brother's name?" asked Tan Xiu inwardly. "Yao Qinglong," answered Yang Lu. Tan Xiu directly called his father, Tang Guosheng, and got some news about Yao Qinglong from him. However, what made him vigilant was that although Yao Qinglong was a member of the Yao family and had some status in the family, the Tang family's investigation didn't mention anything about him being a disciple of the thief sect. "There's a problem." With a gloomy expression, Tan Xiu hung up the phone and looked at Yang Lu, asking, "Do you know which country your eldest senior brother is in? What kind of business is he doing abroad?" "I don't know." Yang Lu shook his head and forced a smile. Chapter 531. You don't know anything about your eldest senior brother? Tan Xiu stared at Yang Lu and asked. "It's not that I don't know anything." Yang Lu shook his head and said, "I only know that my eldest senior brother seems to be managing the Yao family's business abroad. However, I'm extremely skeptical about this since my eldest senior brother is very ambitious. He's absolutely not willing to give up the Yao family's patriarch position, nor is he willing to stay abroad to manage ordinary businesses. It seems that the Yao family is still hiding a lot of secrets." Tan Xiu slowly said. No matter how many secrets they are hiding, as long as they dare to be enemies with my Tang family, they'll be waiting to be uprooted. Yang Lu, answer me seriously. How is your relationship with your eldest senior brother?" Yang Lu was silent for a while. Then he bitterly shook his head and said, not good at all. In fact, we've already fallen out with each other. Even if we can't be considered enemies, we're definitely not friends." "That's it. Help me and you'll be my friend in the future," Tan Xiu said. "Also, don't forget what you promised me. If you want to get that opportunity, You must help me do something. Does this count as boarding a pirate ship? Yang Lu forced a smile. It's up to you, Tan Xiu calmly said. What do you want me to do? Asked Yang Lu. I'll send someone to investigate the document drafted between the Yao family and the government. You must steal it when necessary, Tan Xiu said. As long as the document is lost, it will affect their progress and bring them a lot of trouble. However, this is only a small part of my plan. We'll talk about the other plans later. What are you going to do next, Grandmaster? Asked Gu Xiaoxue. We'll set off immediately to Clam Island to have a look, said Tan Xiu. If it's really suitable to carry out our plan, we must snatch it from the Yao family by any means. Yao Xinhua is a very capable guy, and he's bound to become the mainstay of the Yao family in the future. If possible, let him stay in the South China Sea forever. I'll arrange the ship now, Grandmaster, said Gu Xiaoxue. Hearing this, Yang Lu hurriedly shouted, I'll go with you. Tan Xiu quietly watched the two of them leave. Then he started to read the information investigated by the Everlasting Feast Hall. Countless thoughts churned inside his mind as he silently pondered on how to pay the smallest price to obtain the greatest benefits. In the corridor, Yang Lu looked at Gu Xiaoxue with shining eyes and asked curiously, Xiaoxue, why do you call Tan Xiu Grandmaster? Is he really your master's master? Gu Xiaoxue nodded and smiled. That's right. Yang Lu touched his chin and curiously asked, logically speaking, your master should be quite old, right? He was already so old. Yet he was still willing to acknowledge Tan Xiu as his master. This showed that Tan Xiu was indeed quite capable. Speaking of this, Yang Lu suddenly felt an invisible pair of hands strangling his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't say a word. However, this was not the most horrifying thing for him. What shocked him the most was that he found that he had lost control of his body. An invisible force even wrapped him up and quickly lifted him up and hung him upside down in the corridor. Ghost. Being hung upside down in the corridor, Yang Lu tried his best to raise his neck. He saw Gu Xiaoxue's hands making a few hand seals, and the surrounding environment suddenly changed. It was as though he was hung in an azure hell full of magma. Aside from the rivers of blood and mountains of corpses, there were also countless ferocious-looking ghosts with ferocious appearances. Gu Xiaoxue stood in front of Yang Lu with a curved smile on the corner of her mouth. She then turned around and walked toward the end of the corridor. Yang Li's eyes lit up ever since he saw her, making her feel very uncomfortable. If she hadn't been accompanying her grandmaster, Tan Xiu, she would have already made him suffer a bit. But now he actually dared to slander her master's age. It was truly intolerable. At this moment, Yang Li's heart was filled with deep regret. If he knew that Gu Xiaoxue, who was as beautiful as a fairy, turned out to be such a cruel and merciless woman with terrifying abilities, even if he was beaten to death, he would not want to provoke her. Even he would hide far away. This hellish world made Yang Li's legs tremble. If he could, he really wanted to beg for mercy, hoping that Gu Xiaoxue would let him go back. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. 3 ghostly figures appeared silently in the corridor. When the 3 big men who appeared saw Yang Li's appearance, they all showed a strange look. Don't let him down. An erratic voice sounded in the ears of the 3 big men. Suddenly, the 3 big men revealed a strange smile and retreated in the previous direction. In the luxury suite, Tan Xiu clearly heard Yang Li's cry for help. When he released his divine awareness and saw Yang Lu hanging upside down in the corridor, his face showed a dumbfounded expression. Although he didn't know how Yang Lu provoked Gu Xiaoxue, he didn't feel like putting Yang Lu down since it was done by Gu Xiaoxue. 10 minutes later, Han Qinggu arrived at the corridor under the guidance of a woman. When she saw Yang Lu hanging upside down in the corridor, her eyes revealed a look of disbelief. How did he? As she approached Yang Lu, Han Qinggu turned to look at the woman and asked with a trembling voice. I don't know either, said the woman with a faint smile. But I'm afraid there's no one else in this restaurant except the boss and the little boss who can do this. Han Qinggu nodded and circled around Yang Lu a few times. Then, she raised her finger and stroked her chin. A blurred look flashed in her eyes as she murmured. It seems that I also have such an ability. It's really strange. There's nothing to tie him up, and there's nothing to restrain him. How can he hang upside down like this? What should I do? The woman was surprised and asked. Are you also a cultivator, Miss Han? Han Qinggu raised her brows and asked. A cultivator? This name sounds familiar. It's really strange. I seem to know a lot of things, yet I don't. What a headache. At this time, an erratic voice entered Han Qingwu's ears. Since you can't remember it, then don't think about it deliberately. I'm sure you'll remember it sooner or later. Tan Xiao? Han Qingwu was startled and immediately walked a few steps forward. After pushing the door of the luxury suite, she saw Tan Xiao sitting in the hall and smoking quietly. Tan Xiao, you still don't want to tell me? Asked Han Qingwu. It's not time yet, so you don't need to rush to know. Tan Xiao shook his head. I'm sure you'll remember everything that happened sooner or later. Also, I told you that I came to Jingmen Island for an important matter, so I don't have time to accompany you on a sightseeing tour. You can also leave if you don't feel satisfied with the service provided by the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff. Han Qingwu rolled her eyes at him and snorted. Who said the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff isn't considerate enough? They arranged the best room for me and provided me with satisfactory service. I've decided that I'll stay here until you're done with your business. The Everlasting Feast Hall isn't like other places. Tan Xiao nodded and said, there are a lot of rules to abide by here. If you want to stay here comfortably and have a vacation, it's best not to violate the rules here. Tell me, is there something else you want to talk to me about? I came here to ask you how long it will take you to finish your business, said Han Qingwu. I don't have a long vacation from school. I can't tell you how long it will take, said Tan Xiao. You can go back by yourself if I haven't finished my business by the time your vacation arrives. All right. Then pay attention to your safety. Han Qingwu hesitated for a moment before she gently nodded. I'm not a child anymore. I know how to take care of myself. Tan Xiao let out a trace of a smile. Are you hungry? I've already ordered someone to prepare a meal, and it'll be sent over later. I happen to be hungry, said Han Qingwu with a smile. As the fragrant meal was sent over, Tan Xiao broke the illusion array for Yang Lu. He carried the pale-faced Yang Lu into the hall and threw him on the sofa, saying, Whatever you just encountered has nothing to do with me. She wouldn't have taught you a lesson if you didn't say anything that made her unhappy. Take a rest and immediately come here to eat. We still have important things to do after dinner. Yang Lu struggled to get up from the sofa. Fear still flashed in his eyes as he said with a trembling voice, Brother Tan Xiao, why do you have so many monsters? That Gu Xiaoxua looks like a fairy, but she's even more terrifying than a witch. Tan Xiao chuckled and said, I seem to have heard someone shout ghosts just now. That person shouldn't be you, right? You're a member of the occult doors. If a member of the occult doors is afraid of ghosts, then it'll be a big joke. Cough, cough. Yang Lu coughed dryly, and his handsome face instantly turned red. Han Qingwu stared with wide eyes and said in astonishment, I never thought that the talkative Mr. Yang Lu would actually have such a blushing moment. It's really inconceivable. I guess he should be the one who just shouted that word. Otherwise, he wouldn't be embarrassed and blushing. You guys. Yang Lu flew into a rage out of shame. He fiercely glared at Tan Xiao and Han Qingwu as he staggered and walked toward the door. I'm full. I'll wait for you outside. Ha ha ha. Han Qingwu burst into laughter. Just after dinner, Gu Xiaoxua hurried back with an invitation in her hand. She came to Tan Xiao and said, Grand Master, this is an invitation from the Ouyang family. They're holding a charity banquet at the Sheraton Hotel tonight. They hope that our Everlasting Feast Hall's people can attend. Also, I got the news that Yao Xinhua, who's in Jingmen Island, has also received this invitation. Yao Xinhua? A cold light flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes as he nodded and said, Since the Yao family's people want to go, then I'll go there myself. I want to see that brat in advance so that he knows who will send him to hell in the future. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.